Chapter 20. Father, you want me to go to Canaan College? Xiao Yin understood Xiao Zhan's thoughts and shook his head. I don't want to go there. Little guy, don't tell me you don't know about Canaan College? Seeing Xiao Yan's face full of disgust, Luo Tian frowned. Once you enter Canaan College, you will have access to a variety of techniques and skills. With your talent, you might even have the opportunity to learn Earth-class techniques and skills. Teacher Luo Tian is right. Teacher Ruoling continued. If you stay in this small Wutan city, you will only be buried. The further you go in the path of cultivation, the more you will need external resources. Canaan College can provide you with continuous resources. Teachers, I have my own cultivation method. Xiao Yin still refused. Following Boss Chu is the way to go. If I go to Canaan College, I will really be buried. Boss Chu? Luo Tian couldn't help but look at Chu Bei. After sizing him up, a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. Let me see what kind of ability he has to make you look down on Canaan College. Luo Tian snorted coldly. Then a violent dou qi gushed out from his body, shaking the air in the room. Teacher Luo Tian, don't. Sensing Luo Tian's intention, Xiao Zhan's face changed. However, before he could stop him, Luo Tian had already gathered dou qi on his right fist and punched towards Chu Bei. Chu Bei waited for a moment. The iron lump robot in the corner didn't move. Helpless, he could only reach out with a finger. Chu Bei's finger seemed slow, but suddenly released a dazzling light. The energy fluctuation at the tip of his finger brought about ripples. Feeling the terrifying energy coming towards him, Luo Tian's pupils suddenly shrank. His originally careless expression suddenly became dignified. Overlapping palms. Luo Tian turned his fist into a palm. His dou qi rose to the limit. He struck out with his palm, and several palm prints appeared on his palm. Layers upon layers of palm prints stacked on top of each other before finally converging together. Their fingers and palms touched. The glaring light around Chu Bei's fingertips instantly converged at a single point. Bang! A terrifying energy fluctuation burst out. With a miserable cry, Luo Tian's entire body flew out of the house and smashed into the street, creating a deep pit. How is this possible? Looking at Luo Tian painfully crawling out of the pit, Instructor Ruoling's expression froze, as if she had lost her soul. Folded palms was a low earth-level fighting technique. In Canaan College, only instructors above fighting spirit were qualified to practice it. With the strength of a 3-star Luo Tian Douling, he could fight with a 4-star or even a 5-star Douling if he were to use his folded palms. However, such a powerful move was easily destroyed by the young man in front of him with a single finger. The fairy doctor, who was standing at the side, was also shocked. She didn't expect Chu Bei to be so powerful in addition to being able to use the lucky plate. As for Xiao Zhan and Xiao Yin, they were very calm. They only felt pity for Luo Tian. Fighting king. Luo Tian crawled out of the pit and looked at Chu Bei in horror. He couldn't imagine that a young man who looked like he was only 23 or 24 years old was actually a fighting king. His right palm had been pierced through. His flesh was badly mangled and the bones in his hand were shattered inch by inch. Don't just look at everything with your eyes. Consider this a lesson for you. Chu Bei looked at Luo Tian expressionlessly, his voice indifferent. That finger just now was an attack-type level 6 item that he had spent 10,000 willpower points to purchase. Enhanced telepathic finger. Unfortunately, it was a one-time use item. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Luo Tian and Ruoling looked at each other, then looked at Xiao Yin. In the end, they turned and left unwillingly. Boss Chu, I didn't expect Instructor Luo Tian to be so reckless. I'm really sorry. Xiao Zhan said apologetically. He's already paid for it. Chu Bei's expression was indifferent. Looking at Xiao Yin, he said, the dou qi continent is very big. At Canaan College, you'll be able to understand the world more comprehensively. Moreover, if you stay in Wutan City, with the Xiao family's financial resources, I'm afraid you won't be able to spin the fortune wheel soon. Hearing this, Xiao Yin fell into silence. The truth was indeed so. Just like today, the opponent's upper limit was 5 million. Even if he used up all his liquid assets, he only had 2 million. Father, I've decided. I'm going to Canaan College. After a long time, Xiaoyan made his decision. On the day of departure, don't forget to put the ring back on. With your current strength, the existence inside the ring will soon awaken. Chu Bei reminded. Boss Chu, what's inside the ring? Xiaoyan asked, his eyes filled with curiosity and desire. You'll know when the time comes. Chu Bei revealed a meaningful smile. After Xiao Yin and Xiao Zhan left, Chu Bei used the rest of his willpower to exchange for cultivation. Host successfully exchanged for cultivation. 5 stars of Do Shuren 0000 willpower deducted. Little doctor, I'm going out for a bit. After speaking, Chu Bei opened his invisible wings and flew out of the house. Following the red on the system's map, he embarked on the journey to find Yunlan's sect, one of the biggest forces in the Kama Empire. The sect was located on a majestic mountain 10 kilometers away from the capital. This mountain was also called Misty Cloud Mountain. Looking at the peak of Misty Cloud Mountain, it was surrounded by clouds and mist, like a fairyland. Up and down the mountain, one could see Yunlan's sect's disciples training hard. At this moment, on top of a black rock at the edge of a cliff, there was a woman wearing a moon-white robe. Her hands were forming seals and her eyes were closed as she trained. Senior Sister Nalan, Elder Nalan Su, is here. A girl wearing a pink dress walked up. Father? Why is he here? Nalan Yinran frowned. Not long after, a middle-aged man with a gloomy face quickly walked to the edge of the cliff. Father, aren't you busy every day? Why do you have time to come to the Yunlan sect? Nalan Yinran walked up and grabbed Nalan Su's arm. When I came back, I heard that you privately rejected the marriage arranged by Elder Nalan? Nalan Su questioned, in the family, who doesn't know that your grandfather wants face? Your actions now will undoubtedly let others say that our Nalan family saw the Shao family's power weakened and disdained to form a marriage alliance with them, thus breaking the promise and abandoning the marriage. My marriage, why can grandfather decide it with just a word? Regarding this matter, I will make the decision. Nalan Yinran's gaze met with Nalan Su's. If you really want to fulfill the so-called agreement, then let grandfather marry over. Shut up. Nalan Su scolded. You've been in the Yunlan sect for too long. You actually dare to say such words. I heard that Xiaoyan, that guy, was reduced to a waste 3 years ago. Do you think he's not good enough for you because of this? Nalan Su said again. Even so, you should have told me in advance. Father, and you will think of a way together. Waste? He's not a waste. Everything is a facade. Nalan Su's words seemed to stab Nalan Yinran's heart. After a cold snort, Nalan Yinran took out a crumpled piece of paper from her bosom and threw it to Nalan Su. Letter of divorce. Nalan Su's gaze was instantly attracted by the 2 striking words, and his expression suddenly changed. Damn Xiaoyan. He actually dares to treat my, Nalan Su's, daughter like this. After Nalan Yinran recounted what happened that day, Nalan Su clenched his fist, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. Chapter 21. Magic Beast Mountain Range. Chu Bei flew along the map on the system screen. Just as he reached the inner part of the mountain range, a violent lion's roar came from afar like a thunderclap. Chu Bei's eyes narrowed when he heard this. He stared intently at the distant sky. Vaguely, he could see 2 figures intertwining. Have they already started fighting? Chu Bei sped up again. Rumble. In the distant horizon, green and red colors each filled half of the sky. Violent energy fluctuations caused muffled thunder-like explosions to ring out. The terrifying power caused by the battle caused the magic beasts in the forest below to crawl on the ground and tremble. On the battlefield, a figure was a huge magic beast that was 7 to 8 meters long. Its body was covered with a layer of purple crystals. The sunlight shone and radiated in all directions. It was dazzling. Its head was a rather ferocious-looking lion's head. Its blood-red eyes glowed with a strange purple light, and its huge mouth was filled with fangs. On top of the lion's head, there was a fiery red spiral horn, and clusters of purple flames were circling around the tip of the horn. On the side of the huge lion's body, there was a pair of purple wings. As the purple wings flapped, clusters of purple flames swept out like flamethrowers. Its 4 thick claws were also covered with a layer of purple crystals. Every time it stepped on the ground, it would cause the void to tremble. Amethyst Winged Lion, a level 6 magic beast. The other figure was a beautiful woman in a plain dress. The woman held a sword that had a strange appearance and was emitting a green glow. Her fine black hair was tied up into a noble phoenix hairpin. Her beautiful and moving face was calm and tranquil, and she revealed a graceful and noble appearance that was difficult to conceal in plain clothes. On the beautiful woman's back, a pair of green wings formed by battle energy flapped. Human woman, I'll give you one more chance. Scram. The amethyst-winged lion spoke in human language and shouted, "If I don't get the purple spirit crystal, I won't leave." The beautiful woman pointed her long sword at the amethyst-winged lion. "You are trying to wear down my patience." The amethyst-winged lion let out a roar, and the purple crystal on its body shone brightly. Turbulent purple flames rose from its body and gathered into a huge purple fire pillar that shot into the sky. "Then let's continue." The beautiful woman flapped the green wings on her back and swung the long sword in her hand. On the tip of the sword, a circle of rapidly rotating wind blades emitted a chilling sound. Rumble. The two figures intertwined again. The energy storm from the collision swept out in a frenzy, and the forest below was completely torn apart. The battle became more and more intense. "You don't know what's good for you." Suddenly, the amethyst-winged lion let out another roar, and the purple light on its body became even brighter. In an instant, the resplendent purple light overshadowed the green light behind the woman. Not good. Sensing the might of the amethyst-winged lion, Chu Bei's heart sank. However, his speed had already reached its limit. The beautiful woman's face also became dignified. Within a radius of a few feet, the wind began to howl. Amethyst Seal. Just as the amethyst-winged lion finished speaking, all the purple light in the sky suddenly shrunk. In an instant, the purple light that filled the sky was compressed into a dark purple pillar of light that was only about half a foot long. Then, it swept toward the beautiful woman like lightning. Wind push style. The woman waved her sword, and countless dark green wind blades that were more than 100 feet long rushed out from the tip of the sword. Rumble. The purple light pillar and the dark green wind blades collided. In just a moment, the wind blades were at a disadvantage and then exploded. On the other hand, the purple light pillar only dimmed slightly. After destroying the wind blades, the purple light pillar continued to charge forward, piercing through dozens of wind shields in front of the beautiful woman, and finally shot into her body. At this moment, the amethyst-winged lion appeared in front of the beautiful woman, and 5 sharp claws pierced toward the woman's chest. Extreme wind. Meteorite kill. Seeing that the amethyst-winged lion's claws were about to pierce through the beautiful woman, the long sword in the woman's hand trembled, and a thin ray of light that was almost the size of a thumb shot out. Chi. The ray of light was extremely fast, and in an instant, it swept in front of the amethyst-winged lion's head. Fortunately, the amethyst-winged lion was extremely sensitive, and it lowered its head immediately. However, although it avoided the fatal part, the ray of light still hit the red horn on its head and cut it in half. "I'm going to tear you into pieces." The amethyst-winged lion let out a heart-wrenching cry of pain, and its sharp claws condensed a terrifying energy once again. However, the beautiful woman, who was finally able to catch her breath, suddenly turned back, and her body flashed strangely and disappeared directly. "She can't have run far. Search, you must find her for me." Looking at the direction where the beautiful woman disappeared, the amethyst-winged lion let out a ferocious roar filled with murderous intent. At the same time, the magical beasts in the mountain ran wildly. As expected, I didn't make it in time. When he heard the amethyst-winged lion shout out the amethyst seal, Chu Bei had a bad feeling. After sighing, Chu Bei also changed his direction and continued to fly in the direction of the red on the map. Soon, Chu Bei found Yun Yun in a river under a waterfall. At this moment, Yun Yun's whole body was drenched and her eyes were closed. Her face was pale, and there were still drops of blood at the corner of her mouth. The originally clear river was dyed red with blood. It was obvious that Yun Yun's injuries were very serious. According to the plot, This should have been Xiao Yan's benefit. Looking at Yun Yun in the water, Chu Bei muttered to himself, "Unfortunately, I'm here too. The main character has changed." After lamenting, Chu Bei walked to Yun Yun's side. But just as he reached out to hold Yun Yun's waist and was about to carry her out of the water, the latter's originally closed eyes suddenly opened. She stared at Chu Bei with a cold, murderous intent in her eyes. Meeting Yun Yun's murderous gaze, Chu Bei was stunned at first, but he quickly regained his composure. Not only did he not let go of the hand that was holding Yun Yun's waist, but he used more strength and directly carried her in front of him. "Do you want to die? Let go of me," Yun Yun scolded. However, due to her serious injuries and the fact that the wind of meteorite had exhausted the last of her energy, she did not even have the strength to struggle, let alone attack Chu Bei. Chu Bei ignored Yun Yun's cries and directly soared into the air, flying towards the nearest cave. Who are you?" Seeing Chu Bei flying in the air, Yun Yun's expression suddenly changed. Other than shock, there was also vigilance. At first, she could not detect Chu Bei's battle energy fluctuation and thought that he was just an ordinary person who happened to be passing by. But just now, the other party's ability to soar into the air without using battle energy to transform into wings changed her opinion. "Don't be nervous. I'm here to save you." Chu Bei looked down at Yun Yun in his arms and said lightly, "Do you know my identity?" Yun Yun endured the pain in her body and asked with a frown. "Yun Yun, the current sect leader of the Yunlan sect," Chu Bei casually replied. Chapter 22. Who exactly are you? Hearing Chu Bei say her name and identity, Yun Yun glared at him. "A businessman." Arriving at the cave, Chu Bei laid Yun Yun flat on the ground. "Are you from the Primer family?" As soon as Yun Yun said that, she immediately refuted her guess. "No, I've dealt with the Primer family before, but I've never seen you before. Let me heal you first." Chu Bei ignored Yun Yun's question. With a thought, he took out an exquisite jade bottle through the system. Inside the jade bottle was a sky-blue liquid that emitted a refreshing fragrance that refreshed one's mind. Smelling it made one feel refreshed. In the reward of this large transaction, he could freely use 2 level 8 items from the system store. To be exact, although there were higher level items in the system store, the items above level 9 were all grayish-black in color. In short, whether it was pawning or selling, the highest level of the current items was level 8. For the first item, Chu Bei naturally chose the item that could unlock the seal on Yun Yun's body and heal her injuries. Blue Spirit Water, a level 8 item, could take care of both at the same time. "Take your hand away." Just as Chu Bei was about to untie Yun Yun's clothes, Yun Yun shouted again. The murderous intent in her eyes intensified. Due to her extreme anger, she forcefully channeled her combat power and spat out blood. "Even if you want to take revenge on me, you have to get better first, right?" Chu Bei's hands did not stop moving. He slowly removed Yun Yun's soaked clothes. The deep bloodstains on her chest were shocking. "I'll kill you. I'll definitely kill you," Yun Yun shouted herself hoarse. She glared at Chu Bei fiercely as if she wanted to remember Chu Bei's appearance. Chu Bei coughed dryly. After he felt that he had relieved the awkwardness, the blue spirit water in the jade bottle dripped down and landed on Yun Yun's wound. Hiss! Feeling the coolness of the wound, Yun Yun sucked in a breath of cold air, which seemed to increase her pain. The hatred and killing intent in her eyes towards Chu Bei intensified. However, as more and more blue liquid seeped into the wound began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gradually, color returned to Yun Yun's pale face, and the weak aura on her body grew stronger little by little. At the same time, Yun Yun's painful and twisted expression began to ease. The anger and killing intent in her eyes were replaced by shock and astonishment. In the end, Yun Yun even closed her eyes as if she was using the blue spirit water to speed up the release of the seal. Bang! After a long time, a low sound came from Yun Yun's body. It was also at this moment that Yun Yun, who was originally lying flat on the ground, suddenly got up and took a step back, distancing herself from Chu Bei. Extreme wind. Meteorite. A long sword appeared in Yun Yun's hand. The tip of the sword trembled slightly, and a deep ray of light the size of a thumb shot towards Chu Bei's right hand. Obviously, Yun Yun's intention was to destroy the arm that touched her body. Feeling the sharp sword light, Chu Bei's heart tightened. However, he was already prepared, so he didn't dodge or evade. Layers of circular patterns suddenly appeared from the center of his black pupils outwards. Just as the deep ray of light from Yun Yun was about to cut off Chu Bei's right arm, Chu Bei's mutated eyes seemed to turn into a whirlpool with the power of devouring. In an instant, the deep ray of light uncontrollably changed direction and was swallowed by Chu Bei's mutated eyes, disappearing without a trace. How is this possible? Don't tell me you're really a Dozong. Yun Yun stared at Chu Bei in disbelief and instinctively took a few steps back. Her voice was filled with horror. Before, she thought that Chu Bei should have some strength, but it would never reach the level of Dozong. There is a high probability that he is also Do Huang, or even below Do Huang. As for the other party's Do Chi wings, it should be hidden through some kind of secret technique. But just now, when she used the extreme wind meteorite and was quietly annihilated by the other party, she knew that the other party's strength was definitely far beyond her imagination. After all, even a peak Do Huang would not be able to easily block the killing move at such a close distance. Yun Yun Gunyang, is this how you treat your savior? Chu Bei looked at Yun Yun jokingly. Fortunately, he used the second level 8 item in time. A weakened version of Rinnegan, one of the mutated eyes in Naruto's world, which can perform a variety of dojutsu. The method of swallowing and transferring the extreme wind meteorite is one of its abilities. We don't owe each other anything. Yun Yun's voice was cold, and the Do Chi wings appeared behind her. You can't leave yet. Just as Yun Yun was about to flap her Do Chi wings and leave, Chu Bei blocked her path. He did not fly all the way from Wutan City to the Magic Beast Mountain Range to be a good guy, but to obtain the system's 50,000 willpower value. If he allowed Yun Yun to leave now, then wouldn't everything that he had done be for naught? Could it be that he really did it for the sake of his belt getting wider? What are you trying to do? Yun Yun stared at Chu Bei and frowned. I told you before, I am a merchant, and you are a customer that I have set my eyes on. Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile. You're looking for the amethyst-winged lion for its purple spirit crystals. My black cloud crystals are 3 times as effective as this one. Black cloud crystal? Why have I never heard of it? Moreover, why should I believe you? Yun Yun snorted. Because of this. Chu Bei shook the jade bottle in his hand that contained the blue spirit water. Yun Yun stared at the jade bottle and fell into silence. The blue liquid in the bottle not only unsealed the amethyst seal, but also healed the wounds on her body. If this elixir was in the outside world, it would definitely be a treasure that Do Huang would fight over. Tell me, how can I get the black cloud crystal you speak of? Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, Yun Yun finally could not help but speak. Whether you can get it or not will depend on your luck. Chu Bei smiled and waved his sleeve. The air trembled and rippled. A golden disc with a diameter of 1 meter appeared from the ripples, emitting a glaring light. At the top of the disc, the words, Level 7 Wheel of Fortune, were engraved. This is... Looking at the wheel that suddenly appeared, Yun Yun's expression changed and her eyes were filled with confusion. The black cloud crystal is in these boxes. After Chu Bei finished explaining the rules of the Wheel of Fortune, he said, the price for 1 spin is 1 million gold coins. Of course, other than gold coins, anything of value is fine. Here are 5 rank 5 magic beast cores. Yun Yun took out 5 magic beast cores from her storage ring. The system has received 50,000 willpower. The host has received 25,000 willpower. As the whirlpool in the center of the disc swallowed the 5 magic beast cores, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. In the next moment, the silver needle on the disc began to spin wildly. Ding! 5 square boxes floated in the air one after another. A look of anticipation appeared on Yun Yun's face. Thank you for your patronage. 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 The 5 square boxes exploded at the same time, and all of them had the same 4 words on them. Yun Yun was stunned at first, but when she came to her senses, she looked at Chu Bei and her expression darkened. Chapter 23. Miss Yun Yun, I told you beforehand that everything that comes out of this box is random. There might be nothing at all. Chu Bei avoided Yun Yun's murderous gaze. But you didn't tell me that the probability of getting an item is so low. Yun Yun gritted her teeth. 5 Class 5 magical beast magic cores were wasted just like that. Rumble. Just as Yun Yun was about to say something, there was a rush of hooves outside the cave. They're here. Hearing the commotion, Yun Yun's expression changed. Although her seal had been broken and her wounds had healed, she had not recovered to her peak state yet. With her current strength, she would definitely die if she went up against the amethyst-winged lion. As expected, in just a few seconds, 3 Class 4 magical beasts ran into the cave. When they saw Chu Bei and Yun Yun, they roared at the same time, spreading far and wide. Damn it! Yun Yun's expression was serious. She immediately waved her sword, and several large dark green wind blades rushed out. In an instant, the 3 Class 4 magical beasts were cut into pieces by the wind blades, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The amethyst-winged lion is coming. Yun Yun looked at Chu Bei, and her aura began to rise. She was ready to fight at any time. Don't be nervous. Chu Bei gave Yun Yun a reassuring look. As my customer, I have the obligation to ensure your safety. Yun Yun did not reply, but the serious expression on her face was obviously more relaxed. Human, I'm going to tear you into pieces. At this moment, a powerful energy wave came from above the cave, and the huge mountain shook. Accompanying it was the amethyst-winged lion's roar that was filled with killing intent. Chu Bei and Yun Yun left the cave at the same time and stood at the edge of the cliff. You actually managed to undo this king's seal. How is that possible? The amethyst-winged lion's huge eyes were suffused with a blood-red purple light, and clusters of flames were spiraling around the tip of its broken horn. When it sensed the fluctuation of Yun Yun's aura, its eyes flashed with surprise. Is he the helper you found? Then let's kill them as well. The amethyst-winged lion looked at Chu Bei. As it flapped its purple wings, faint purple flames swept down like a flamethrower. Almost in an instant, the temperature of the air at the edge of the cliff rose abruptly, like a large furnace. Yun Yun snorted coldly. She raised her hand, and a small green tornado swept out from her palm. At first, the tornado was only 2 meters in size, but when it flew high into the sky, it suddenly expanded, and in the blink of an eye, it became a huge tornado that was nearly 300 meters in size. However, before this huge tornado could touch the purple flames that covered the sky and earth, Chu Bei's strange eyes released a demonic light. Then, the blazing purple flames twisted and disappeared into thin air. What's wrong with your eyes? The amethyst-winged lion stared at Chu Bei. It could sense that the strange disappearance of its attack had something to do with Chu Bei's eyes. Chu Bei only glanced at the amethyst-winged lion indifferently and did not answer the other party's question. This king wants you all dead. Realizing that it was ignored, the killing intent in the amethyst-winged lion's eyes intensified. An angry lion's roar sounded. The purple light in the amethyst-winged lion's eyes suddenly intensified, and its huge paws brought along a gorgeous purple light, and its huge body swooped down. Wherever the paws passed, there would be a sharp sound wave that seemed to cut open the void. Looking at the amethyst-winged lion's fierce attack, Yun Yun frowned slightly. She crossed her hands, and a huge green wind shield that was nearly 10 meters in size suddenly appeared in front of her. After the protection, Yun Yun looked at Chu Bei beside her. The other party did not dodge, nor did he make any defensive moves. 10,000 heavenly attraction. Chu Bei opened his right hand, and his palm was aimed at the amethyst-winged lion that was charging at him. Just as Chu Bei's calm voice fell, the amethyst-winged lion's huge body suddenly stopped, as if it had suddenly received a terrifying electric shock. In the next moment, although it was still flying towards Chu Bei, it had lost control of its body. It did not look like it was swooping down, but more like it was being pulled by an irresistible suction force. What did you do to me? The amethyst-winged lion's huge eyes were filled with fear. Shinra Tensei. Chu Bei was expressionless, and his mouth once again uttered the indifferent syllable. Almost at the same time, large amounts of ripples began to appear around Chu Bei's body, and these ripples frantically gathered towards his palm. Seeing that the amethyst-winged lion was about to be pulled to Chu Bei's side by the suction force, the energy gathered in Chu Bei's palm suddenly exploded. A terrifying, repulsive force spewed out. Bang! With a low rumble, a hole with a diameter of 1/2 meter appeared in the amethyst-winged lion's chest. Fresh blood flowed out, and it was a ghastly sight. Its huge body was shot into the sky like a cannonball under this repulsive force. The miserable lion's roar resounded through the sky, and the magical beasts in the forest below prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move. Humans, even if I die, I will drag you down with me. After a moment, the amethyst-winged lion once again appeared in Chu Bei and Yun Yun's line of sight. At this moment, the fresh blood in its body continuously seeped into the surface of its scales, and then it began to burn. The amethyst-winged lion's expression was ferocious, and its huge mouth was wide open, revealing its sharp teeth that gleamed with a cold light. Not good. It's burning its blood essence. Yun Yun's expression changed drastically. As the blood essence burned, the amethyst-winged lion's aura became weaker and more violent, and the surrounding air emitted crackling sounds. Amethyst seal. Amidst the lion's roar, the burning flames on the surface of the amethyst-winged lion's body and all the purple light in the sky rapidly compressed by its mouth. In the blink of an eye, a dark purple light pillar that was several times larger than the one used to deal with Yun Yun was formed. It's definitely going to die. Let's avoid it first. There's no need to receive its seal. Feeling the energy waves in the dark purple light pillar, Yun Yun's expression was extremely serious. However, Chu Bei at the side acted as if he did not hear her words, and was not moved at all. Let's die together. Chibaku Tensei. The amethyst-winged lion's roar and Chu Bei's indifferent voice sounded at the same time. The terrifying dark purple light pillar had just shot out from the amethyst-winged lion's huge mouth, but before it could shoot out 2 meters, it was as if it was suppressed by an invisible force and suddenly stopped. Following that, a huge black ball of light enveloped the amethyst-winged lion. At the same time, the ground below seemed to have experienced an earthquake. It shook violently, and deep ravines split open. Yun Yun was dumbfounded. Countless huge rocks that had split open rushed towards the black ball of light that enveloped the amethyst-winged lion. Rumble. Amidst the rumbling, in just a few seconds, a huge stone ball with a diameter of a few hundred meters was formed. Under Yun Yun's indescribable shocked gaze, the huge stone ball fell and smashed heavily into the ravine. The amethyst-winged lion's aura completely disappeared. Is it dead? Yun Yun muttered to herself. Her previous grace and elegance were gone, and at this moment, it was as if she had lost her soul. Chapter 24. Yun Yun looked as if she had lost her soul as she stared at the gigantic stone ball that had sealed and killed the amethyst-winged lion. When she came back to her senses, she seemed to have thought of something. The wings on her back suddenly flapped, and her graceful body leaped into the air, then flew towards the east like lightning. Chu Bei saw through Yun Yun's intentions and immediately followed. Soon, the two of them stopped in front of a huge mountain range. In front of them, a huge cave was faintly discernible under the cover of tree branches. It was the cave of the amethyst-winged lion. Yun Yun glanced at Chu Bei, then turned into a green shadow and dived into the cave. The cave was not dark, and the walls were inlaid with purple crystals. It was extremely beautiful. This lion really knows how to choose a place. Chu Bei glanced at the naturally formed cave and let out a sigh. The deeper they went into the cave, the hotter the air became. After a while, Chu Bei and Yun Yun flew to a particularly spacious area in the cave. On a 2-meter-tall square platform made of purple crystals, there was a purple ball the size of a soccer ball. It was also the source of the heat in the cave. Amethyst Lion Birth Essence. Yun Yun's gaze was fixed on the purple ball, and her face was filled with joy. After the exclamation, Yun Yun glanced at Chu Bei. After seeing the latter's extremely calm expression, she flashed to the side of the purple ball, grabbed it, and threw it into the storage ring. Roar! At this moment, a lion's roar sounded. Immediately after, a small amethyst-winged lion pounced at Yun Yun from not far away, its eyes filled with hatred. A mere rank 3. Yun Yun's face was filled with disdain. With a wave of her sword, several wind blades cut through the air and easily cut the small amethyst-winged lion into pieces. After killing the small amethyst-winged lion, Yun Yun glanced at Chu Bei again. Seeing that Chu Bei still didn't say anything, he took out a diamond-shaped crystal and walked around with it between his fingers, as if he was looking for something. Not long after, Yun Yun stopped in a corner. At the same time, the diamond-shaped crystal in her hand lit up with a purple light. Found it! Yun Yun's face was filled with excitement as she punched out. Bang! The mountain wall exploded, and a fist-sized sharp purple spirit stone flew out. Above the spirit stone, light flowed, and it was beautiful. Yun Yun grabbed the purple spirit crystal and looked at Chu Bei for the 4th time. Goodbye. Yun Yun cupped her fists towards Chu Bei and flapped her battle chi wings. Leaving just like that? Chu Bei looked at Yun Yun playfully. I was the one who discovered the purple spirit crystal. Yun Yun looked at Chu Bei with vigilance. What's more, I spent 5 class 5 magic cores and got nothing from you. You can leave if you want. You have to spin at least another 5 million fortune discs with me. Chu Bei looked at Yun Yun indifferently and said calmly. Although he had already received 25,000 willpower through Yun Yun, the upper limit of the reward for this transaction was 50,000 willpower. What if I don't? Yun Yun held her sword and stared coldly at Chu Bei. This place is very remote and quiet. It seems like a good place to bury your bones. Chu Bei pointed at the surrounding cave walls with a smile on his face. You? Hearing Chu Bei's threatening words, Yun Yun was so angry that she gritted her teeth. After a long time, forget it, I won't argue with you. I don't want this amethyst lion birth essence. Yun Yun took out the purple ball from her storage ring. It won't work. Chu Bei shook his head. According to the system's judgment, the amethyst lion birth essence he found with her didn't have any willpower. Yun Yun glared at Chu Bei fiercely and then took out 2 scrolls from her storage ring. One scroll is a high-level earth fire attribute cultivation method, and the other is a mid-level earth rank fighting skill. Not enough. Chu Bei responded indifferently. Besides the purple spirit crystal and the amethyst lion birth essence, these are the only valuable things I have. Yun Yun held the long sword in her hand tightly. Then don't blame me. Chu Bei shrugged and pretended to be cold. His Rinnegan began to emit a strange light. You really deserve to die. Meeting Chu Bei's chilling gaze, Yun Yun bit her red lips and her waist trembled in anger. Carry her. Yun Yun said coldly. Chu Bei did as he was told. Yun Yun's beautiful face flushed red. Her slender fingers slowly unbuttoned her clothes and then took off the light blue metal inner armor that was flowing with a strange light. This is the heart of the sea armor, made from a strange metal produced in the stomach of the level 6 three-tailed blue whale. Its defensive power depends on the user's own strength. Yun Yun put on her clothes and said in a cold voice, With this, it's enough. Chu Bei restrained his aura, and the corners of his mouth rose again. Turn to the most expensive one. Yun Yun was expressionless. She had already obtained the purple spirit crystal, so she wasn't too obsessed with the so-called black cloud crystal, not to mention that the probability of winning was very low. It was better to save some time and directly turn to the most expensive one. The customer is God. After saying that, Chu Bei moved his mind. The void trembled and rippled. A round disc with the words Level 8 Wheel of Fortune engraved on its top appeared, emitting a resplendent light. The system obtained 50,000 willpower. The host received 25,000 willpower. The whirlpool in the center of the disc swallowed the 2 scrolls and the heart of the sea armor. The system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. In the next moment, the silver needle on the disc spun. Ding! A few seconds later, a square box flew out of the disc and floated in front of Yun Yun. Yun Yun was especially calm and didn't have any expectations. Bang! The square box exploded. A black scroll appeared. I got a scroll. Looking at the black scroll in front of her, Yun Yun was stunned at first, Then she immediately looked at Chu Bei with a face of disbelief. Chu Bei was also stunned. Before turning the disc, he and Yun Yun had the same thought. Thank you for your patronage. After all, the higher the level of the box, the lower the probability of getting a treasure. Unexpectedly, Yun Yun got a treasure on her first try. She was simply a lucky woman. What kind of scroll is this? Yun Yun came back to her senses and couldn't wait to ask. Miss Yun Yun's luck is really not bad. Chu Bei pointed at the black scroll and said, This is the Chibaku Tensei scroll, a one-time consumable item. It can kill all experts below the 1-star Do Zone level. Chibaku Tensei? What a familiar name. Yun Yun frowned. After muttering, she quickly reacted. It's the move you use to deal with the amethyst-winged lion. The huge stone ball with a diameter of 100 meters appeared in her mind. Yun Yun exclaimed. That's right, Chu Bei replied. Seeing Chu Bei nod, Yun Yun let out a long breath and suppressed the excitement in her heart. This time, she really earned a lot. After Yun Yun carefully took the scroll, she looked at Chu Bei and asked tentatively, Can I go now? Go ahead. Chu Bei smiled indifferently. If you need anything in the future, you can come to the All Heavens shop in Wutan City to find me. Wutan City, All Heavens shop, Yun Yun repeated, then flapped her battle energy wings and left. Chapter 25. After parting with Yun Yun, Chu Bei flew back to Wutan City. After the large transaction was completed, the weakened version of Rinnegan ability obtained through the system disappeared. Why is there no one here? When he returned to the celestial shop, he found that there was no one in the house. Chu Bei frowned. Then, he began to exchange willpower. After completing Yun Yun's large reward, Chu Bei currently has a total of 60,280 willpower. At the Dosher stage, every star required 5,000 willpower. At the moment, Chu Bei's cultivation was 3 stars of Dosher. He still chose to use all of his willpower to exchange for cultivation. The host has successfully converted his cultivation base. 60,000 willpower deducted, 2 stars of Dosher. After deducting 30,000 willpower, Chu Bei's cultivation reached 9 stars of Dosher. After deducting 45,000 willpower, the liquid droplet on Chu Bei's abdomen began to solidify, and finally turned into a thumb-sized green diamond-shaped crystal. Crystal, the symbol of a Dosher. After deducting 60,000 willpower, Chu Bei's cultivation reached 2 stars of Dosher. At the Dosher stage, every Dian required 15,000 willpower points for every star of cultivation. Feeling the feeling of incomparable strength in his body, Chu Bei nodded with satisfaction. Then, he walked to the door and clenched his fist. A rich green light covered the surface of his fist, and a sharp edge gradually appeared. With a punch, a powerful force fiercely smashed the green stone bricks. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the stone bricks flew everywhere. Looking at Chu Bei's body, the Do-Chi cloak on the surface of his body also turned into a real armor. External release of Do-Chi and Do-Chi armor. This is the root cause of the disparity in strength between Dosher and Dosher. Boss Chu, you're finally back. Something happened to the little doctor. At this moment, Xiao Yan's anxious voice came from afar. Hearing this, Chu Bei frowned. Boss Chu, when I came to your shop this afternoon, I found little doctor unconscious on the ground. Since you weren't around, I brought her to my residence, but she hasn't woken up yet. Xiao Yan breathed heavily. What's even more frightening is that I was poisoned because of her. If it wasn't for the antidote last time, I'm afraid I would have died. Let's go and take a look. Chu Bei's face was solemn, as if he had guessed something. Xiao Manor. Chu Bei and Xiao Yan went directly to the room where the little doctor was. On the bed, the little doctor's eyes were tightly shut. Her originally rosy face was suffused with a strange rainbow color. Boss Chu, you're finally here. Xiao Zhan, who was standing guard at the side, hurriedly welcomed Chu Bei's arrival. As expected, it's acting up. Chu Bei came to the bedside and glanced at it. What's wrong with the little doctor? Is she poisoned? Xiao Yan immediately asked. Yes and no. Chu Bei replied. Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhan had a puzzled expression. Chu Bei took a step forward and used 2 fingers on one hand to pry open the little doctor's mouth, while the other hand moved the little doctor's head. Suddenly, a black liquid flowed out of the little doctor's mouth. What a poisonous medicine! Could it be that the little doctor is committing suicide? Looking at the corroded bedsheet, Xiao Yin cried out in alarm. This kind of poison, I'm afraid even a dozier would die from it. She's only a 1-star dozier, yet she's still alive. What a miracle! After determining the nature of the poison, Xiao Zhan's face was filled with astonishment and confusion. Normal dozier would naturally die, but she's an exception. Moreover, she's not committing suicide. Chu Bei's voice was calm. On this continent, there's an extremely special physique known as the woeful poison body. What? The little doctor has the woeful poison body. Xiao Yan's face was filled with even more confusion, but when Xiao Zhan heard this term, his expression was already filled with shock. Father, what is this woeful poison body? Xiao Yan's head was filled with confusion. The reason why it's called the woeful poison body is because once such a physique appears, it represents the arrival of a disaster. A few years ago, there was a woman who possessed the woeful poison body on this continent. In a fit of rage, she turned an entire kingdom into a poisonous land, causing millions of deaths. How terrifying! Xiao Yin sucked in a breath of cold air, but quickly thought of another point and looked at Chu Bei. But what does this have to do with her eating poison? Unlike normal people's cultivation, the woeful poison body doesn't need to cultivate do qi for a long time. If they want to increase their strength, they only need to continuously eat poison and use this special physique to form poison do qi in their bodies. Chu Bei explained and continued. The stronger the poison, the faster their strength will increase. So it can be like this. Xiao Yin looked at the little doctor on the bed with a face full of shock. Although it's like this, poison is still poison. Even if she has the woeful poison body and her resistance to poison is far stronger than normal people, as she consumes more and more poison, there will be a day when she won't be able to suppress the poison do qi in her body. At this point, Chu Bei shook his head and faintly sighed. At that time, her body will be devoured by 10,000 poisons, and she will slowly die under the torment of pain. Boss Chu, is there a way to deal with this? After hearing Chu Bei's words, Xiao Yin shivered and looked at the little doctor with a gaze full of sympathy. Chu Bei smiled. His expression gave the answer. I'm very curious about one thing. How did she know that she has the woeful poison body? Xiao Zhan asked the question in his heart. There should be a record in there. Chu Bei pointed at a book next to the little doctor's head. The words, Broken Edition Compendium of Materia Medica, were especially eye-catching on the front page. Hearing this, Xiao Zhan waved his hand and sucked the Compendium of Materia Medica into his hand. He quickly flipped through it. Just as Boss Chu said, there really is a record. After saying this, Xiao Zhan threw the Compendium of Materia Medica to Xiao Yin. The woeful poison body can be cultivated by consuming poison. The obvious characteristic is that there is a small 7-colored hidden line in the lower abdomen. As the poison in the body grows, the 7-colored hidden line will spread. When it reaches the heart, the person will suffer the pain of being devoured by 10,000 poisons. Xiao Yin looked at the records in the Compendium of Materia Medica, and his gaze returned to the little doctor. Boss Chu, what should we do to her now? Chu Bei shook his head. She just didn't control the concentration of the poison and is temporarily unconscious. She will wake up soon. Xiao Yin and Xiao Zhan relaxed. 15 minutes later. She's awake. Following the slight movement of the little doctor's hand, Xiao Yin cried out in surprise. Following this, the little doctor's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. Boss, Xiao family head. Young Master Xiao, you. The little doctor rubbed her head. Before she finished speaking, she seemed to have remembered what she had done before she fainted. She scratched her head and said with an apologetic expression, I've implicated you. Miss Fairy Doctor, next time you must control the concentration of the poison. For safety's sake, it's best if you don't cultivate anymore. Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment before advising, so you already know. The little doctor bit her lips and looked at Chu Bei. Boss, I'll go back to the shop and pack up my things before leaving. Why do you want to leave? Chu Bei looked at the little doctor with interest. I have the woeful poison body. Aren't you afraid? The little doctor avoided Chu Bei's gaze. Don't mention that you're just a doja. Even if you become a poisoned dough emperor, I still won't be afraid. The corner of Chu Bei's mouth carried a smile. Since you're awake, then come back with me. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the little doctor was surprised at first, but then she happily agreed. Chapter 26. You must be Boss Chu, right? Chu Bei and the little doctor had just returned to the All Heavens shop when a beautiful woman wearing a red dress walked in. Her voice was so charming that it made one's bones go numb. You are. Chu Bei sized up the graceful, mature woman who suddenly appeared in front of him, his eyes filled with curiosity. My name is Yafei, the head auctioneer of the Primer Auction House. Yafei introduced herself, her every frown and smile filled with charm. No wonder. Chu Bei sized up Yafei's enchanting figure again and suddenly understood. Boss Chu, you've heard of me? Seeing Chu Bei's expression, Yafei was astonished. Wutan City's famous beautiful auctioneer, Miss Yafei. Who doesn't know of you? Chu Bei looked at Yafei with interest. Boss Chu, you must be joking. Yafei twisted her waist. Xiao Manor's third young master asked me to auction some spirit plants for him. The alchemists in my auction house have never seen these spirit plants before, so I asked young Master Xiao about them out of curiosity and learned that they came from you. Moreover, he also said that you have other treasures other than the spirit plants. I know the purpose of your trip. Today, I can only sell another 3 million gold coins. Chu Bei went straight to the point and explained the rules of the spinning wheel to Yafei. The limit of the gold coins he could sell every day was based on his cultivation in the morning. Today, other than Yun Yun's large transaction reward, his limit was 5 million gold coins. In the morning, Xiao Yin had spun 2 million gold coins, so he could sell another 3 million gold coins. Boss Chu, then give me 3 sets of level 3 lucky wheels. After listening to the rules, Yafei took out 3 million gold coins from her storage ring, her face filled with anticipation. Chu Bei nodded slightly. Since the other party didn't ask for anything, he didn't deliberately choose the type of wheel. This type of wheel could spin out all kinds of level 3 goods. Wong. The void trembled, and a level 3 lucky wheel appeared. The system gained 30,000 willpower. The host gained 15,000 willpower. 3 sets, 30 times. The needle turned. Witnessing this scene, although Yafei was mentally prepared, she still couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. As an auctioneer, she had come into contact with all kinds of strange guests, but it was the first time she had met someone who did business like this. Ding! The 30 boxes were lined up in front of Yafei. Then, a loud explosion rang out at the same time. 20 thanks for your patronage, 5 level 2 magic cores, 3 herbs, 1 sky blue spiral-shaped pill, and 1 exquisite wooden box that was 1 meter long. Boss Chu, please give us an introduction. Yafei's gaze swept over the series of products that had been opened. You should recognize the demon core. The 3 herbs can be used to refine tier 3 spirit pills. The sky blue finished pill is called the condensation pill. A 9 stars dojo can enter the do-shi realm after swallowing it. What? Directly become a do-shi? Before Chu Bei could finish, he was interrupted by Yafei's exclamation. Will there be side effects? Of course not, Chu Bei replied. Then what about this? Yafei couldn't wait to open the 1 meter long wooden box. Inside was an item that was about 1 meter long, gray and black, with a round opening in the front that had never been seen before in the Do-Chi continent. It's called the AK-47. After being strengthened, you can categorize it as a divine weapon. It can be fired 10 times and can kill any cultivator under the Do-Shi realm. Chu Bei took out the AK-47 from the box and played with it. Although its power was strengthened by the system, its bullet capacity was greatly reduced. It can kill a Do-Shi realm? Yafei's face was filled with disbelief. She let out a long breath and hurriedly said, Boss Chu, can you demonstrate it? Chu Bei nodded and walked out of the room with the AK-47. He aimed the muzzle at a 2-meter-tall mountain rock in the empty space to the west. The muzzle flashed. A bullet shot out, creating a ripple in the air, and in the blink of an eye, it hit the mountain rock. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the mountain rock exploded. So fast. Looking at the mountain rock that turned into several pieces, Yafei's pupils suddenly dilated. When she came back to her senses, excitement began to appear on her face. In a few breaths, she had already thought of how to auction these two treasures. As long as the promotion was in place, whether it was the liquid condensation pill or the strengthened AK-47, she was confident that she could auction them for 3 million gold coins. Coupled with the 5 level 2 demon cores and the 3 herbs, she had made a huge profit this time. Boss Chu, thank you so much. Yafei carefully put the series of treasures into the storage ring. When she looked at Chu Bei again, it was as if she was looking at a treasure. I am a merchant and you are my customer. It is my duty to introduce goods to you. Chu Bei lightly replied. Then I won't disturb the two of you anymore. Goodbye. Yafei looked at the little doctor behind Chu Bei and turned to leave. Side mission activated. Host completes the transaction of the Green Lotus Core Fire. During the mission, the system will determine that the host can use one level 8 item from the store. Due to the distance, the host can use the system's fixed-point teleportation array for free to go to the desert city. Mission completion reward, 1. Additional upper limit of 150,000 willpower. 2. 1 chance to use a level 8 item at any time. Chu Bei was just about to exchange all the 30,000 willpower for cultivation when the system's voice sounded in his mind. Strange fire transaction? Isn't this stealing Xiao Yan's opportunity? Chu Bei's expression froze, and his brows furrowed slightly. However, when he thought of the mission completion reward, Chu Bei could not help but smile. That little bit of apology to Xiao Yan disappeared. During the mission, although he could use a level 8 item once, it could only be used to complete the mission. However, the chance to use a level 8 item in the mission completion reward could be used at any time without any restrictions. Compared to the previous large transaction reward, Chu Bei was not satisfied this time. Other than the Desert City teleportation array, there was no marked map. Fortunately, he had some understanding of the battle plot and was able to determine the location of the Molten Green Lotus. Boss, what are you thinking about? At this time, the little doctor's voice sounded. Nothing. Chu Bei came back to his senses. Then, after a slight hesitation, he temporarily stopped exchanging the 30,000 willpower for cultivation, in case he needed to use it in other places. The next day, Chu Bei woke up. After stretching his body a little, he stepped into the system's teleportation array. He had to admit that the system's products were really good. In just a few breaths, everything around Chu Bei changed. The familiar house disappeared and was replaced by a vast sky and a boundless golden desert. Because the air was too hot, at a glance, it even gave people a distorted and blurry feeling. Directly below him was a huge city. Even if Chu Bei was 100 meters in the air, he could clearly see the two large light red words above the city gate. Desert City, the city bordering the eastern border of the Kama Empire and the Tager Desert. Chapter 27. Chu Bei landed in the city. After asking around, he flew towards the west. This is the place. Looking at the simple shop with the words Ancient Map engraved on the signboard above the door, Chu Bei smiled. The shop was not spacious and was rather deserted. There was only an old man behind the counter who was carefully making a map with his head down. Although the old man had a head full of white hair, his withered hand that held the black pin was still firm and strong. The maps of the various regions of the Tager Desert are over there. Find what you need. The old man did not even raise his head, let alone look at Chu Bei. His old and calm voice echoed in the room. On the counter that the old man was pointing at, there were some yellowed maps casually piled up. Some of the maps even had traces of damage on them, as if they were defective products that had failed. Chu Bei smiled. He was not in a hurry to find the maps. Instead, he pulled a chair over and sat down. He sized up the old man with interest with a playful expression. The old man ignored Chu Bei and continued to draw the map in his hand. You're not here to buy maps? After the old man finished drawing the map in his hand, he finally raised his head slowly and glanced indifferently at Chu Bei. Although the old man's eyes were calm, The frightening scar on his left cheek added a hint of viciousness to him. Are you used to this place? Chu Bei's words carried a smile. His indifferent tone did not have the slightest ripple. What do you mean? The old man's expression changed slightly. Hypedon was once one of the 10 strongest in the Kama Empire. He was antisocial and arrogant. He was extremely proficient in ice-type Do Chi. He once froze an entire city in a fit of anger. He was known as the Ice Emperor. Chu Beiyu leisurely poured a cup of tea for himself and continued, I once had a decisive battle with the previous Misty Cloud sect master on the summit of Misty Cloud Mountain. Although I was defeated in the end, the other party also won a Pyrrhic victory. Later, in the great experts competition organized by the Kama Empire and the Chu Yun Empire, he fought a Do Huang and a Do Wang alone without losing. He stunned everyone. Ever since the meeting of the strong, you've come to the Tager Desert. After saying that, Chu Bei waved his right hand and all the messy maps on the counter flew into Chu Bei's hand. Chu Bei rummaged a little and pinched out a palm-sized remnant of the map. By chance, you snatched this map fragment, but because of it, you offended Queen Medusa of the Snake Clan in the desert. Chu Bei played with the map fragment in his hand. In that battle, you were defeated by her as expected. Although you were lucky enough to escape, you were also hit by her snake seal. Not only is his body rapidly aging, his strength has also greatly decreased, turning from a Do Huang to a Do Ling. All these years, you've been hiding here and studying the map fragments because you want to find a way to break the seal. However, the incomplete map is still an incomplete map. It is of no use to you. Chu Bei took 2 sips of tea, put down the teacup in his hand, and looked at the old man with interest. Bang! The old man slammed his palm on the counter. With an explosive sound, the counter shattered into pieces. Who are you? What are your intentions in coming here? The old man coldly stared at Chu Bei. Coldness lingered in his turbid eyes. After saying that, the old man waved his sleeve and the door that was originally open closed with a rumble. At the same time, an ice-cold and tyrannical aura spread out from his body, oppressing Chu Bei. Chu Bei was unmoved. He allowed the old man's aura to oppress him. His expression did not change, and he was not affected at all. Due to the existence of the system, not to mention a mere Do Ling, even the pressure of a Do Di would not have any effect on him. Don't be nervous. I'm also a merchant. Chu Bei smiled. Merchant? Looking at Chu Bei, who was not affected at all by his aura, Hippodon's expression became more serious. Other than confusion, there was also some vigilance. Being hit by Medusa's snake seal curse, it doesn't feel good, right? Chu Bei calmly looked at the old man. You can undo the seal on my body? Hypedon stared at Chu Bei. As long as you can undo the seal, I, Hypedon, will owe you a favor. A favor from a Do Huang should have some weight, right? Don't bullshit me. Chu Bei stood up and straightened his clothes. I'm a merchant. I only recognize money. I don't need your so-called favor. Hypedon was stunned. For decades, no one dared to speak to him in such a tone. Coming back to his senses, Hypedon frowned. His white hair moved without wind. An icy cold Do Chi surrounded his body. How much do you want? Chu Bei smiled and waved his sleeve. With a buzz, a golden disc appeared in the room, emitting a piercing light. At the top of the disc, the words Level 6 Wheel of Fortune were engraved. The thing that can undo your seal is called the reverse seal formation. As long as it's a seal under the Do Zone level, it can undo it. Chu Bei stretched out his hand and pointed at the square boxes on the wheel. The reverse seal formation is in these boxes. The price for one spin is 800,000 gold coins. Of course, other treasures of the same value will also work. Really? Looking at the wheel that suddenly appeared, Hippodon's expression changed. He was shocked and suspicious at the same time. I don't cheat anyone. Chu Bei's expression was indifferent. What's the probability of getting it? Hypedon continued to ask. That will depend on your character. Chu Bei poured another cup of tea. If you're lucky, you can get it once. If you're unlucky, you might need 10, 20, or even 30 times. Give me 20 times. Hypedon was very forthright and directly took out 16 million gold coins from his storage ring. The system has received 160,000 willpower. The host has received 80,000 willpower. When the whirlpool in the center of the disc swallowed the 20 million gold coins, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Looking at the silver needle that started to spin on the disc, Chu Bei looked at Hypedon with surprise. This guy was much richer than he thought. Ding! Amidst the crisp sounds, 20 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of by Boudong one after another. Hypedon clenched his fists, and a look of anticipation appeared in his cloudy eyes. Bang! The 20 square boxes exploded at the same time. 19 of them had the same 4 words: "Thank you for your patronage." The last one was a green soft armor. This result made Hypedon a little disappointed. He didn't forget to point at the green soft armor and ask Chu Bei for an explanation. Green silver armor. It can change according to the size of the person wearing it. It can defend against all attacks below the level of a 3-star Do King. Chu Bei said concisely. Let me try. Hypedon tested the soft armor with a punch. Not bad. Looking at the undamaged soft armor, Hypedon nodded with satisfaction. His strength had dropped to the level of a Doling, so this soft armor still had some use for him. Give me 20 more. Hypedon took out another 16 million gold coins. Although the soft armor was good, it wasn't his goal. Based on the host cultivation, the host has reached the limit of gold coins sold today. At this time, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Chapter 28. Today's sales have reached the upper limit. Let's stop here. Chu Bei looked at Hypedon apologetically. When you're free, come find me at the All Heaven shop in Wuten City. What do you mean? Are you messing with me? Hippodon's face immediately darkened. A murderous aura flashed in his eyes, and his hideous scar looked even more ferocious. I'm a merchant. Some rules were set by the ancestors and cannot be changed. Chu Bei replied indifferently. Since you know my identity, you must have some understanding of my temperament. Hypedon stared coldly at Chu Bei. If you don't hand over the so-called reverse seal today, don't even think about walking out of this door. Are you threatening me? Chu Bei frowned, his face turning cold. Hypedon snorted coldly and stomped his right foot on the ground. Suddenly, an icy aura spread rapidly with him as the center, filling the entire shop. The mist lingered, faintly obscuring one's vision. Condensing ice spike, Hypedon shouted, his hands flipping quickly to form a seal. In an instant, the cold mist in front of him churned rapidly, condensing into 3 transparent spiral-shaped ice spikes that were half a meter long. Whoosh! As Hippodon's right palm slapped towards Chu Bei, the 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes shot out with a whistling sound. Feeling the piercing coldness in front of him, Chu Bei did not dodge. Instead, his mind moved. A light wall as thin as a cicada's wing formed in front of Chu Bei. Bang! The 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes hit the light wall with a low muffled sound. Then, under Hippodon's gaze, the 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes all sank into the thin light wall as if they had entered a whirlpool. What's going on? Hypedon frowned. Just as he finished speaking, ripples appeared on the strange wall of light. Then, 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes with an even more terrifying aura formed in the light wall. Hippodon's expression changed when he saw the icicles shooting out like lightning. He quickly flipped his hands again. The cold air around his body surged and gathered, forming an ice shield in front of him. Crack! However, in front of the 3 even more terrifying ice spikes, the ice shield was instantly shattered, unable to defend against them at all. Bang! Another muffled sound was heard. The 3 icicles hit Hippodon's chest hard. Poochie! Hypedon spat out a mouthful of blood. His body shot out like a cannonball and hit the wall. His face instantly turned pale. Don't mention that you are only a Doling now. Even if you were to return to being a Do Huang, I would still not place you in my eyes. Chu Bei walked up to Hypedon at a moderate pace and said, Since we've made a deal before, I won't argue with you this time. If you dare to try to rob me again, I don't mind finding a grave for you. As his cold voice faded, Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and the light wall in front of him that was as thin as a cicada's wing disappeared. He had spent 10,000 willpower points to purchase the 3x reflection mirror. Under the Do Wang realm, all attacks will be returned 3x for a duration of 3 minutes. Hypedon stood up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He only looked coldly at Chu Bei, not saying a word. As for this map fragment, it can't break your seal. Don't spend any more time studying it. Chu Bei picked up the map fragment on the table and threw it to Hypedon. He said, if you want to break the seal, remember to go to Wu-Ten City. After saying that, Chu Bei flipped through a pile of messy maps. He picked the most detailed map and threw it into the celestial space. He didn't even pay and walked out of the house. Looking at the map fragment in his hand and then looking at Chu Bei's back, Hypedon seemed to want to ask something, but in the end, he stopped in his tracks. In the vast desert, the wind and sand were raging. Chu Bei flapped his wings and flew above the desert. Just as Chu Bei flew over a towering sand surface, he stopped. In the desert below, more than 10 mercenaries were holding weapons with their backs facing him, their faces serious. Around them, 8 strange-looking creatures were distributed in a circle, surrounding them. These creatures had human heads and human bodies, but their legs were huge snake tails. The snake tails made a hissing sound when they swung their tails, chilling people's hearts. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. The leader of the Nagas glanced coldly at the mercenaries. His voice was hoarse and his face was filled with bloodlust. Hearing the leader's order, 2 Nagas immediately stepped forward. Their mouths were slightly open as they flicked their scarlet snake tongues. Everyone, stay alert. We have just sent out a signal. As long as we hold on for a while, the leader will arrive. Then we will be saved. Seeing the Naga's actions, a middle-aged man in the surrounded mercenaries spoke. Hearing this, the other mercenaries voiced their agreement, but their hands that were tightly holding their weapons were filled with sweat. Although they had the advantage in numbers, the strongest among them was only a 7-star doja, while the weakest of the enemy was an 8-star doja. They all understood this difference in strength. They would not be able to hold on until their leader arrived. Kill. The leader of the Nagas coldly snorted. The 2 Nagas that stepped forward immediately charged toward the mercenaries with ferocious faces. Prepare for battle. The leader of the mercenaries hurriedly yelled, Shio. However, just as the 2 Nagas were about to charge into the mercenaries, the sound of something breaking through the air sounded. Then, a figure suddenly appeared between the 2 serpent men and the mercenaries. Seeing the sudden appearance of the young man, the group of mercenaries was first shocked, but they quickly reacted with joy. Since the other party was also a human and had appeared at this time, he must be here to help them. Kill them together. The leader of the Nagas glanced at Chu Bei with disdain. He did not ask anything and directly waved his hand. After receiving the order, the 2 8-star doja fiercely swung their tails and charged toward Chu Bei with ferocious expressions. Chu Bei's expression did not change. He clenched his fists and his body flashed as he quickly passed by the 2 Nagas. Bang! In an instant, the 2 Nagas seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. Their bodies trembled as they flew back against the sand, spitting out blood from their mouths. Do. Release of Dochi. He is a Dodosher. How can this be? He is too young. Seeing the 2 Nagas that had been sent flying dozens of meters, the mercenaries' mouths were wide open. Their gazes were fixed on Chu Bei, and their faces were filled with shock. Under such a heavy blow, even if the 2 Nagas did not die, they would definitely be seriously injured and on the verge of death. Human, offending us Nagas in the Tager Desert is not a wise choice. Seeing that the 2 subordinates were seriously injured by Chu Bei, the leader of the Nagas narrowed his triangular eyes and spoke with a cold voice. Chu Bei smiled and calmly looked at the leader of the Nagas. Scram. A single word sounded like rolling thunder. You will definitely regret this. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, the leader of the Nagas coldly snorted. If he had not personally witnessed Chu Bei releasing his Do Chi, he would have already charged forward. Retreat. After speaking, the leader of the Nagas looked at the other Nagas and gave the order. Are you threatening me? Then you should stay here forever. Just as the leader of the Nagas led his subordinates to turn around, Chu Bei's mocking voice sounded. P.S. New book. I need recommendation tickets, dear friends. Please spread out the tickets in your hands. Love you all. Super love. Chapter 29. Bang. As soon as Bei finished his sentence, he had already flashed behind the nearest Naga and punched out. With a low thud, the Naga's pupils shrank. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with his crushed internal organs. At the same time, his body was like a cannonball, smashing violently at the feet of the leading Naga. Human, you deserve to die. The leading Naga's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Bei fiercely, wishing he could pull out his tendons and pull out his bones. However, Bei did not care about the leading Naga at all. He clenched his fist and charged towards another Naga. Bei's speed was extremely fast. Every time he changed his position, a Naga would fly out. In the blink of an eye, Bei finished off the other serpent men and appeared in front of the leading serpent man. No, you can't kill me. Fear appeared on the leading Naga's face. At the same time, he swung his tail at Bei fiercely. Bei did not dodge and met the attack with a punch. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the leading Naga's mouth. The tail that was hit was badly mutilated. Bei punched out again. Under the fearful gaze of the leading Naga, he went straight for the latter's head. Hiss! Looking at the battlefield that had just ended, the group of mercenaries gasped and looked at each other, dumbfounded. Thank you, sir, for saving us. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid our desert metal mercenary group would have all died in the hands of those Naga. The group of mercenaries reacted and went forward to surround Bei. They cupped their fists one after another with gratitude on their faces. Desert metal mercenary group? Interesting. Bei had a smile on his face. Sir, you know our mercenary group? Noticing Bei's expression, the group of mercenaries were surprised. Xuelon, where are the Naga that attacked you? Are you all okay? Before Bei could speak, an anxious voice came from the desert not far away. 7 eagles flew over. There were 2 to 3 people standing on each eagle. The leader is here. The group of mercenaries cheered. Soon, Ingja landed with a group of people. They were led by 2 young men who looked very similar and were dressed in mercenary uniforms. Captains, it was this lord who saved us just now. A middle-aged man among the mercenaries immediately narrated the entire process of how Bei had killed the 8 snake men and saved them. Many thanks. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li bowed to Bei at the same time. It's fate. I'm a businessman, and Xiao Zhan and Xiao Yin are my customers. Bei said with a smile. Father, third brother? What a coincidence. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li were surprised. Sir, why have you come to the Tager Desert? I'm here for a deal. Bei said indifferently. If I'm not mistaken, this transaction should be with Medusa of the Naga tribe. What? Queen Medusa? Hearing Bei's words, not only Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, but the other mercenaries also revealed shocked expressions. Sir, this Queen Medusa is not someone you can offend. Even the top 10 warriors of our Kama Empire can't find a match for her. Xiao Ding frowned. Besides, this Medusa hates humans. If you want to make a deal with her, the risk is not ordinary. With regards to Xiao Ding's reminder, Bei did not mind at all. He only smiled and then walked towards a delicate and pretty girl behind Xiao Li. Seeing Bei walk over, the pretty girl was slightly surprised and hurriedly bowed. Sir, the pretty girl's timid voice sounded. The girl was about 14 or 15 years old. She wore a light green, elegant long dress. Her cute and delicate oval face was like a beautiful porcelain doll. Sensing that Bei was approaching, the young girl lowered her head and revealed a timid expression. She was like a frightened little rabbit, making people feel a little pity for her. Qinglin? Bei called out tentatively. Hearing this, the girl was stunned at first and then stuttered. Sir, you? How do you know my name? Bei smiled and pointed at the girl's white and tender wrist that was exposed by her sleeve. There were some green snake scales there. Looking at the direction Bei's finger pointed, the girl's cute little face instantly turned pale. She hurriedly pulled down her sleeve and took 2 steps back. Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. The girl's small body kept trembling. Her timid voice had a hint of anxiousness. Sir, you must know that Rock Desert City is located in the Tager Desert. As a result, there would occasionally be human women and Nagas who would behave in an unreasonable manner. Under normal circumstances, humans and Nagas will not produce offspring. But nothing is absolute. There is always a small probability that some women will give birth to the next generation. Xiaoding glanced at Qinglin and shook his head. Even if these women give birth to offspring, their offspring usually have a hard time living past 2 years old. Although Qinglin is an exception, this type of person, no matter if it's a human or a Naga, they all see it as a curse. So in these years, she has received countless supercilious looks and ridicule. The other mercenaries also seemed to know about Qinglin's experience. Their eyes were filled with pity. Looking at Qinglin's timid appearance, Chu Bei sighed in his heart. He slowly walked to Qinglin's side. People living in this world don't need to care about other people's opinions. Moreover, these snake scales are very beautiful, aren't they? Chu Bei gently stroked Qinglin's head with one hand. His other hand carefully lifted Qinglin's sleeve and stroked the snake scales. Sir, do you really think they're beautiful? Qinglin's voice was weak. She avoided Chu Bei's gaze. Ever since she was born, anyone who saw the snake scales on her wrist had treated her like a monster. No one had ever praised her snake scales. Your eyes are very beautiful too. Chu Bei stared at Qinglin's watery eyes. Unlike ordinary people, Qinglin's eyes were slightly green. In the depths of her pupils, 3 extremely small jade-green dots of light were faintly discernible. Thank you, sir. Hearing Chu Bei's praise once again, Qinglin's face was filled with shyness other than a timid expression. As expected of the triple jade-green snake flower pupils, after staring at Qinglin's eyes for a long time, Chu Bei let out a sigh. If the system's power had not intervened immediately, he might have lost his mind. She will follow me from now on. At this moment, Chu Bei looked at Xiaoding and Xiaoli. Xiaoding was stunned. Then, he asked for Qinglin's opinion. Qinglin timidly looked at Chu Bei. Then, she looked at Xiaoding and Xiaoli. She gritted her teeth and said, I'm willing to follow and serve you, sir. That's good. Xiaoding and Xiaoli let out a long breath. They smiled as if they were afraid that Qinglin would not agree. I still have a deal to make. I'll take my leave first, Chu Bei said calmly. Sir, we're familiar with the Naga tribe. Why don't we give you a ride? Xiaoding hesitated for a moment. Then, he said firmly, You're the benefactor of our desert metal mercenary group. If those Nagas want to harm you, we can also help. Thank you. Chu Bei did not refuse. He stepped onto an eagle. Chapter 30. In the distant sky, the sun hung high in the sky. The blazing sunlight scattered across the golden desert, roasting the tiny grains of sand until they were like red-hot iron. In the endless sky above the desert, a group of eagles was flying rapidly. Boss Chu, we have already arrived at the depths of the Tager Desert. Xiaoding licked his dry lips and tilted his head to look at Chu Bei. Chu Bei nodded slightly in response. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The eagles continued to fly, but just as they were passing by an oasis, numerous sonic booms sounded. Looking closely, they were green snakes that were half a meter long. They were spitting out their tongues as they swarmed towards the eagles. Screech! The 7 eagles sensed danger and immediately let out a terrified cry, frantically flapping their wings to avoid the green snake army. Not good. Quickly land. Xiaoding and Xiaoli's expressions changed as they immediately gave the order. However, even though Xiaoding's group had landed on the ground, the green snake army did not give up. They swooped down, covering the sky and earth. Fortunately, although there were many of these green snakes, they were very weak. 15 minutes later. Leader, where did these snakes come from? Why did they suddenly attack us? A mercenary pointed at the green snake corpses on the ground, his face filled with confusion. Compared to the hot air in the desert, this oasis was much cooler. Everyone, stay alert. There must be someone controlling these green snakes. Xiaoding frowned, his expression very serious. Human, congratulations on your guess. Just as Xiaoding's voice fell, a mocking laugh came from not far away. Immediately after, with rustling sounds, 10 slim snake women appeared in front of Xiao Ding's group. These snake women had cold expressions, their hands tightly holding onto their weapons. Their sharp gazes swept over Chu Bei, Xiao Ding, and the others, revealing a murderous aura. Looking at the approaching 10 snake women, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li's expressions became increasingly ugly. Among the 10 snake women, 6 of them were dou-shi like them. As for the other 4, their auras far exceeded theirs. They were clearly dou-shi experts. Boss Chu, the situation is not good. Xiao Ding pulled out the saber at his waist, the dou-chi in his body surging. Human, don't tell me you want to pass through my territory without even saying goodbye? At this moment, the 10 snake women took a few steps back to the sides. An especially enchanting snake woman walked to the front, her face filled with mockery as she looked at Xiao Ding's group. Snake woman Yu Mei. Just as this enchanting snake woman appeared in front of everyone's eyes, Xiao Ding's face, Xiao Ding, and Xiao Li's faces suddenly paled, fear in their eyes. As a mercenary group that had been in the Tager Desert for many years, they were very familiar with the information of the Naga tribe. This was especially true for the important leaders of the Naga tribe. Although they had never seen them in person, they had seen portraits of them. Aside from Queen Medusa, the Naga tribe also had 8 leaders with extremely high statuses. You of you, moreover, we have absolutely no ill intentions for coming here this time around. We only wish to pay our respects to Queen Medusa. Xiao Ding took a step forward and bowed respectfully to Yu Mei. If we have disturbed you, we will leave now. After saying that, Xiao Ding quickly gave Chu Bei a look, but the latter was indifferent. Seeing this, Xiao Ding could only take a step back and lower his voice. Boss Chu, you may not know, but this Yu Mei is one of the 8 leaders of the Snake People tribe. She is also a Do Wang. I know, Chu Bei replied indifferently. It had to be said that when he first saw Yu Mei, he thought of Primer Auction House's Yafei. The seductiveness of the two was too similar. You want to meet the queen of my tribe with just the few of you? Yu Mei's diamond-shaped beautiful eyes rippled with a smile. As she spoke, her tone suddenly changed. You are really dreaming. Moreover, where do you think this place is? Do you think you can come and go as you please? Yu Mei's face darkened. Accompanied by a cold snort, her red lips parted slightly. Suddenly, a mouthful of green poison split into several small poison arrows and shot towards Xiao Ding and the rest. Chu Bei took a step forward. Without waiting for Xiao Ding to make a move, he waved his sleeve. Chi-chi, several poison arrows were deflected by Chu Bei's dou-chi and landed in a nearby bush. In the blink of an eye, they quickly withered into dry wood. You can actually release dou-chi at such a young age. Yu Mei stared at Chu Bei with a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. Forget it, I won't waste time with you. Yu Mei's voice was cold. Her expression became serious. Her slender fingers danced and a cold energy circled around her fingertips, causing waves of whistling sounds that made people tremble. Boss Chu, let's retreat. She is serious. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we will really stay here forever. Sensing the terrifying dou-chi surging out of Yu Mei's body, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the rest became even more terrified. Some of the more timid mercenaries instinctively began to retreat. If those eagles were not frightened by the energy fluctuations released by Yu Mei, they would have already left. Don't be nervous. Chu Bei patted Xiao Ding's shoulder and was as calm as before. After that, with a thought, a red spiral fruit appeared in his palm. A weakened version of the magma fruit, a Logia ability fruit in the One Piece world. It was also a level 8 item that he chose during this mission. Boss Chu, this is? Looking at the magma fruit that suddenly appeared in Chu Bei's hand, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li couldn't help but ask. Even Qing Lin showed a curious expression. I'm thirsty. I'm just using it to quench my thirst. Chu Bei smiled perfunctorily, then swallowed his saliva and carefully put the magma fruit to his mouth. 1 bite, 2 bites, 3 bites. It was a little bitter, a little astringent, and a little nauseating. Is this the taste of the devil fruit? After swallowing it all, Chu Bei let out a long sigh in his heart. Finally, a knot in his heart was untied. Almost at the same time, he felt that the cells in his body seemed to have changed and were filled with a blazing fire energy. Shio. At this moment, a cold force shot out from Yumei's fingertip. Wherever it passed, the air became slightly distorted, and the sound of it breaking through the air made people's heart palpitate. Sir, be careful. Seeing that Chubei didn't dodge, Qing Lin subconsciously called out. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li's faces were also anxious. Not to mention a Dosher, even a Doling would be seriously injured by Yumei's finger. Chubei smiled knowingly, as light as the wind. He calmly looked in front of him and flicked his finger. A wisp of red flame shot out from his finger and met the cold force shot out by Yumei. Chila. At the moment of collision, the cold force shot out by Yumei quickly dissipated and turned into a thumb-sized snake. To be precise, it was a burnt snake corpse. Chapter 31. Show. After the crimson-red flame destroyed the cold force, it continued to move forward and shot towards Yumei. Yumei was startled. After she reacted, she quickly dodged to the side and narrowly avoided the crimson-red flame. Boom! The crimson-red flame landed on the forest behind Yumei and caused a shocking explosion. In an instant, a huge crater with a diameter of several meters was formed at the location of the explosion. How is this possible? Yumei turned her head and glanced at the fire crater. Her face turned gray and was filled with disbelief. The group of snake women behind him also looked at Chubei in astonishment. It was as if they had been struck by a bolt from the blue, or as if a basin of cold water had been poured over them from head to toe. They were flabbergasted. He actually took a hit from a Do Wang. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li glanced at each other, then stood there motionless like wooden blocks. Their eyes stared blankly at Chubei's back as they muttered to themselves. The other members of the Desert Metal Mercenary Company were also at a loss. Their brains seemed to have lost the ability to think and were as fast as lightning. Sir is fine. That's great. That's really great. Qing Lin was the first to recover from her shock and shouted in joy. Big brother, do you think this Boschchu is really the Dosher we know? Xiao Li looked at Xiao Ding. Xiao Ding shook his head. We were wrong. A Dosher definitely can't take that hit. You do have some ability. I underestimated you. Yumei coldly stared at Chubei. As her cold voice fell, her red lips parted and a strange sound wave came out of her mouth. As the sound wave spread, rustling sounds could be heard in the oasis. In a few breaths, the trees and branches around Chubei's group were covered with densely packed black poisonous snakes. The aura of these black poisonous snakes far surpassed the green snakes that appeared in the air earlier. Each of them opened their triangular eyes and stared coldly at Chubei's group. Hiss hiss, the black snakes swung their tails and flicked their tongues. It seemed that as long as Yumei gave the order, they would attack together. So she's the one controlling the snakes. Looking at the surrounding poisonous snakes, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. Although Chubei was powerful, facing such a dense group of snakes, it would be difficult to protect them with just a single attack. It was precisely because of this that the members of the Desert Metal Mercenaries were as tense as a rock, and their hearts were as heavy as lead. Kill. Yumei waved her hand. Her indifferent words were filled with the killing intent of cold in the forest. Upon receiving the order, the black venomous snakes on the surrounding branches rapidly flashed. The surface of their bodies was suffused with a deep luster. They opened their mouths to reveal sharp teeth that flashed with a cold light. They ruthlessly attacked Chubei and his group. Great fire breath. Chubei was still calm and collected, and his expression did not change at all. As his calm voice fell, his arms suddenly turned into huge lava fists made of lava. In an instant, with him as the center, the temperature in the air suddenly rose. Immediately after, under the astonished gazes of several people, Chubei's huge fists that had turned into lava spewed out countless volcanic bombs, which swept out with blazing heat. The densely packed group of black snakes let out miserable shrieks the moment they got close to the volcano bombs. Following that, they were directly evaporated into nothingness by the high temperature. Not good. Yumei immediately flapped her battle chi wings and soared into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Although Yumei successfully avoided the range of the volcano bombs, The other 10 snake girls were affected. Even though they had battle chi armor and battle chi cloak as defense, it was not worth mentioning in front of the terrifying volcano bombs. In the violent explosion of flames, there were those who died and those who were injured. So powerful. Witnessing this scene, the members of the Desert Metal Mercenaries, including Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, were even more dumbfounded. Human, you deserve to die. Looking at the snake girls in the sea of flames, whose faces were twisted in pain, Yumei viciously stared at Chu Bei, her eyes filled with killing intent. As the cold voice fell, Yumei clenched her silver teeth and suddenly stretched out her delicate hand. Instantly, 2 dark green energy streams condensed into a huge green snake in the center of her palm. The green snake's body was covered with hard scales. As its huge mouth opened and closed, its dense white fangs flashed with a cold light. What was shocking was that these 2 green energy snakes seemed to have life. 2 faint, ferocious auras seeped out from their bodies. What a terrifying aura! Looking at the 2 huge green energy snakes swaying in the air, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others held their breaths and concentrated. Their gazes toward Chu Bei were filled with worry. Whoosh! The 2 green energy snakes broke through the air like lightning and arrived in front of Chu Bei in the blink of an eye. Their huge mouths filled with fangs viciously bit toward Chu Bei. Chu Bei was expressionless. Without any ripples, he directly punched out. Straightforward and neat. A glaring hot lava fire fist shot out from Chu Bei's fist. Boom! In the midst of the explosion, the lava fire fist easily swallowed the 2 green energy snakes and appeared in front of Yumei in an instant. Yumei's pupils suddenly shrank. There was no time to hesitate and no time to dodge. She could only use all her strength to activate her battle chi armor. Gotcha! The battle chi armor shattered. Yumei suffered a heavy blow and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was pale. Her graceful body danced in the air and finally smashed into the sea of fire from before, creating an incomparably deep pit. I am a merchant. I only wanted to make a deal with Medusa. After passing through here, you wanted to take our lives without any explanation. Chu Bei walked to the edge of the deep pit and calmly looked at the heavily injured Yumei. Yumei endured the pain and flapped her battle chi wings to fly out of the pit. Her gaze toward Chu Bei finally revealed a hint of fear. I will definitely take revenge. Yumei's beautiful face was cold. She stared at Chu Bei while her hands quickly formed a complicated seal. I indeed underestimated you. However, if you want to keep me here, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Snake technique, split. Yumei's gaze was fixed on Chu Bei, as if she wanted to engrave his appearance in her mind. As the cold shout fell, Yumei's body suddenly trembled and then exploded under everyone's stunned gaze. There was no blood and flesh splattering as expected. Instead, there were countless green energy snakes that covered the sky and flew in all directions. What a strange snake technique. Among these energy snakes, I'm afraid only one of them is Yumei's true body. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at each other. Their gazes swept across the scattered energy snakes and they cried out in shock. Chu Bei's gaze locked onto one of the energy snakes. However, he did not make a move and only smiled. If he wanted to kill Yumei, his previous punch would not have heavily injured her. Instead, he would have directly turned her into nothingness. Let's continue on our way. Chu Bei looked at Xiao Ding and said indifferently, Boss Chu, you have heavily injured Yumei. She must have escaped back and told Queen Medusa about this. After seeing Chu Bei's methods, Xiao Ding became even more respectful. I'm afraid that your deal with Medusa will not succeed. No matter, it won't affect me. Chu Bei smiled knowingly and stepped onto an eagle. Chapter 32. Rock Desert City. A loud roar resounded through the sky and a huge green magic beast landed in front of the city wall. For silhouettes leaped down from the backs of the magic beasts and lightly landed on the scorching sand. Through the aura of the 4 people, the leader was a Do Wang and the other 3 were Dolings. Elder, do you think this map is reliable? A Doling asked. The middle-aged man nodded, and there was a thin piece of parchment in his hand. Looking at it carefully, there was a detailed map of the Tager Desert on the parchment. Other than accurately marking the desert oasis, the scattered snake people tribes were also clearly marked out. If there was a difference between this map and a normal map, it would be the east, west, north, and south positions on the map. The middle-aged man was called Gu He, a Tier 6 alchemist from the Kama Empire and one of the elders of the Yunlan sect. His trip to Rock Desert City was to gather information about the heavenly flame. The 3 flames marked on the map represented the 3 places where the heavenly flame was most likely to appear. Elder, Ling Feng, and the rest are here. Not far away, 2 figures quickly flew over from the desert. They were both Doulings. Elder, we have new news. Soon, the 2 Doulings arrived in front of Gu He. One of the Douling pointed at the parchment in Gu He's hand. Elder, I'm afraid we won't be able to use this map. What do you mean? Gu He was confused. A few days ago, there was a strange movement in this area. The Douling pointed at the flame mark on the east side of the map. I investigated and found out that there were people who saw a monstrous flame. It should be the movement caused by the heavenly flame. Just now, we caught a Douling from the Snake People tribe and found out what happened that day. Queen Medusa went there. What? You mean that the heavenly flame was taken by Queen Medusa of the Snake People tribe? Gu He frowned. Although this will save us a lot of time to search, it will also become more troublesome. Gu He's face became more serious. After a long while, he sighed. Looks like we need to go back and ask Lion King and Windrunner for help. Elder, Medusa is a Do Huang. With just the 2 of them, I'm afraid that it won't be enough. A Douling spoke. What if the sect master is included? Gu He narrowed his eyes and said, Wait for me here. I'll go and invite them over. After saying this, Gu He returned to the back of the huge magical beast and left with a whistling sound. Meanwhile, the Naga tribe's stronghold. In a spacious and luxurious hall, a pale-faced Lamia was leaning against a bench in exhaustion. Her breathing was chaotic. Whoosh! At this time, a whistling sound came from outside the hall. Hearing this, a trace of joy appeared on Yu Mei's delicate face as she looked outside the hall. A black shadow shot in like a bolt of lightning. Emobasi, you're finally here. Yu Mei straightened her body from the bench. How did you get hurt? Who hurt you? When the black shadow sensed Yu Mei's weak aura, his face instantly turned ugly. What happened? You actually issued a martial law and rushed us here. This was a strong Naga. His thin clothes were carelessly draped over his body. Both of his arms were painted with strange black tattoos. Especially those 2 ferocious snake heads, they looked like they would break out of his body at any time. They emitted a fierce aura. Emobasi, the leader of one of the 8 large tribes, was also a Douang. The humans invaded and I was seriously injured. Yu Mei's eyes shrunk, filled with a thick hatred. Who is it? To be able to injure you like this? Emobasi frowned. His voice was filled with a coldness that was difficult to hide. How many people do they have? There are dozens of them. However, other than one person, the strongest of them is only a Do Shi. There is nothing to be afraid of. Yu Mei clenched her fist tightly, her gaze cold. Is it a human Do Huang? Emobasi's expression was serious. I don't know. His aura is very strange. Dochi fluctuation. I originally thought that he was just a Douling. Yu Mei recalled the previous battle and frowned. He can create rolling magma and raging flames. That method is completely different from the human Do techniques I have encountered in the past. It is extremely strange. What is the purpose of his trip? Emobasi asked. He said that he is a merchant who came to make a deal with the queen. Yu Mei replied, Make a deal? Emobasi's face was filled with doubt. Does the queen know about this? Yu Mei nodded slightly. She is not seeing anyone now. That person asked us to deal with him ourselves. I am not a match for him alone. That is why I urgently called all of you back. The queen is not showing herself? This does not seem like her style of doing things. Emobasi frowned and guessed. A few days ago, on the day she left, there was an energy riot in the east of the desert. It should not be such a coincidence. Could it be that Her Majesty the Queen obtained some kind of treasure? Is she in seclusion? Yu Mei turned around and looked at the depths of the hall. On the other side, Chu Bei, Xiao Ding, and the rest stood on the eagle, and continued to go deeper into the Tager Desert. Finally, a huge tribal fortress appeared at the end of their line of sight. On the huge city wall, which was tens of meters tall, were densely packed with tall arrow towers. The tips of the arrows were faintly purple and emitted a cold luster. Under the arrow towers, hundreds of fully armed snake people were patrolling with sharp spears in their hands. As expected of the headquarters of the snake people tribe, Xiao Ding could not help but let out an emotional sigh as he watched the tight defense of the fortress in the distance. With this kind of defense, not to mention a dosher or dodosher, even a doling would be shot into a hornet's nest in an instant if they were not careful. Everyone on guard. There is an enemy invasion. Spear throwers, get ready. When Chubei and the rest were about 100 meters away from the fortress, a buzzing alarm sounded from the walls of the fortress. Immediately after, hundreds of snake people guards quickly applied the poison on their spears, after which they looked at Chubei and the rest with fierce expressions. They are really vigilant. Boss Chu, we are really not welcome here. Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the rest let out a bitter laugh when they met the hundreds of sharp gazes on the fortress. Shoot them all down. On the fortress, a graceful snake woman let out a cold shout. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. As soon as the snake woman's voice fell, all the fully armed snake people on the fortress shouted at the same time. Then, their bodies suddenly leaned forward and the spears in their hands that were stained with poison broke through the air. The sharp sound of the spears breaking through the air resounded through the sky. Chu Bei did not care at all as he looked at the poisonous spears that were shooting toward him from all directions. Just as the poisonous spears were about to pierce through them, lava gushed out from Chu Bei's body. It carried a monstrous flame and surged forward like a great river. In an instant, all the poisonous spears were submerged and merged with the lava with a sizzling sound. P.S. Dear readers of Qidian and QQ Reading, please move your fingers if you have a ticket. Thank you. Chapter 33. Naga Tribe's Stronghold. It must be him. In the spacious and luxurious hall, Yumei heard the commotion outside the stronghold and immediately stood up from her chair. Beside her, Imo Basie also sensed something and his face sank. Then, he looked at Yumei and the two of them flew out of the hall at the same time and appeared in the sky far away. That is, looking at the scarlet magma heat wave outside the city wall. Imo Basie's pupils suddenly shrank and his eyes were filled with astonishment. In the magma heat wave, arrows and guns made of black iron that were stained with snake venom quickly melted and disappeared. That is one of his methods. He should have practiced some kind of fire attribute cultivation method. Yumei pointed at Chu Bei, who was releasing magma heat wave from his body. Her beautiful eyes focused and her face was heavy. Come, let's go. After speaking, Imo Basie and Yumei flapped their battle energy wings and appeared above the city wall in an instant. Two chiefs, this guy, he, Snake Lady, who was commanding the battle on the city wall, immediately bowed when she saw Imo Basie and Yumei. However, before she could finish speaking, Yumei waved her hand and interrupted her. Then, she stared straight ahead. We meet again. Chu Bei placed his hands behind his back and waved at Yumei as a greeting. After speaking with a smile, the surrounding magma heat wave rushed back into Chu Bei's body like a surging river. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze and thinking of the injuries on her body, Yumei coldly snorted. Human, why did you trespass into my tribe's territory without my tribe's permission? Imo Basie coldly stared at Chu Bei. He flapped his battle energy wings, and a tyrannical aura spread out. I came here to make a deal with Medusa. However, I was inexplicably attacked on the way here, so I punished her. After speaking, Chu Bei's gaze returned to Yumei. Damn it! Hearing Chu Bei's words, Yumei clenched her hands and her face became even more unsightly. His ferocious gaze seemed as if he could not wait to tear Chu Bei into pieces. Do you think you can meet our queen just because you want to? I advise you to leave as soon as possible. Imo Basie rejected without hesitation. When the leaders of the other tribes arrive, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave even if you want to. What? Or are you trying to stop me? Bei did not think much of Imobasi's threat. Why do you want to make a deal with me? Just as Imobasi was about to open his mouth again, the space in front of him suddenly distorted strangely. At the same time, a cold voice drifted through the air. Hearing this, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others were slightly startled. Then, they looked at the distorted space with serious expressions. Ripples rose as a graceful figure slowly emerged from the distorted space. Finally, it was clearly revealed in front of countless pairs of eyes. Queen Medusa. Seeing the woman's appearance, Xiao Ding could not help but cry out. He had only seen the woman on top of the city wall in portraits. He had never thought that he would be able to see her in person one day. The woman who had suddenly appeared was wearing a graceful purple brocade robe. Under the brocade robe was a well-developed and exquisite body that emitted a faint charm. A head of fine black hair casually draped over her shoulders and fell to her slender waist. The most conspicuous part was the purple snake tail that was revealed. As the snake tail swayed, there was a wild charm that caused one to be inexplicably absent-minded. Indeed bewitching. Bei sized up Medusa without concealing anything. His gaze finally stopped on Medusa's beautiful face and gave a heartfelt evaluation. Of course, Medusa gave Bei a direct feeling. Other than being bewitching, there was also a sense of nobility and grace. Clearly, she had been in a high position for a long time. Your Majesty. After Medusa appeared, all the snake people on the city wall, including Imobasi and Yume, immediately knelt down and spoke respectfully. Speak. What deal do you want to make? Medusa looked calmly at Bei. Her red lips parted slightly, and the corners of her mouth formed a delicate arc. In an instant, her exquisite face was overflowing with a bewitching aura. Her frown and smile caused one to be absent-minded. I want the green lotus core fire. 8 indifferent syllables were spat out from Bei's mouth. Green lotus core fire? When did Her Majesty obtain the heavenly flame? Could it be that the energy riot in the desert on the day Her Majesty left was the heavenly flame? Hearing Bei's words, Imobasi and Yume looked at each other and their faces were filled with shock. Clearly, they did not know that Medusa had obtained the green lotus core fire. What does Her Majesty want to do with the heavenly flame? Yume's confused voice had just sounded when she seemed to have thought of something and said in shock, could it be that Her Majesty wants to use the heavenly flame to break through? It must be so. Imobasi nodded in response, but the success rate of using the heavenly flame to break through is less than 10%. If anything happens to Her Majesty, our entire snake people tribe will be in danger. Yume's expression changed slightly as she thought of those strong people from the human tribe who were eyeing them covetously outside the desert. Her Majesty has been stuck at the Do Huang level for many years. I'm afraid that she is a little impatient. Imobasi glanced at Medusa and sighed faintly. As the tribe leader, she has a heavy responsibility on her shoulders. She wants to become stronger more than any of us. Once she breaks through to the Do Zone class, the strength of our snake people tribe will swiftly expand and we will no longer be trapped in this vast desert. How do you know that I have obtained the green lotus core fire? Hearing Bei mention the green lotus core fire, Medusa's expression suddenly changed. Her delicate finger gently touched the black hair in front of her forehead, and a chill lingered within her pale purple pretty eyes. At the same time, a dark and cold aura spread out from Medusa's body and instantly covered Bei, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others. Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others immediately shivered and hurriedly circulated the Do Qi in their bodies to resist the cold. Not only do I know that you have obtained the green lotus core fire, I also know that the current you is merely an energy body with some thoughts from your original body. As for your original body, it should be in that large hall preparing to evolve. Bei's mouth carried a smile as he looked at Medusa with a playful expression. What? An energy body? Even the energy body's aura is so terrifying. How terrifying would the original body be? Xiao Ding and Xiao Li exchanged glances with each other before once again looking at Medusa, who was above the city wall. Their faces were filled with shock. Imobasi and Yume's expressions also changed. They did not expect that this was only an energy body of their queen. Rumble. Suddenly, Chu Bei's figure moved. Accompanied by a loud buzzing sound, he turned into a torrent of hot magma that surged and swept through the air. In an instant, the temperature above the city wall suddenly rose. The chill that had invaded the bodies of Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others naturally disappeared without a trace. Looking at the surging hot magma, Queen Medusa's pretty face suddenly sank. Chapter 34. Feeling the scorching heat, Medusa, who was on the city wall, was about to do something when the rolling lava suddenly condensed into Chu Bei's appearance and disappeared in an instant. In the next moment, a figure appeared behind Medusa. He extended his hand and placed it on Medusa's right shoulder. "How dare you, human? Take your stinky hand away." Seeing this scene, Yu Mei and Imo Basie's faces suddenly sank. The energy wings on their back flapped and they quickly pounced towards Chu Bei. "I don't have time to bother with you." However, before Yu Mei and Imo Basie could reach Chu Bei, a ball of scorching lava surged out from Chu Bei's body and formed a four-sided prison, trapping Yu Mei and Imo Basie. Damn it! Yu Mei and Imo Basie continuously launched terrifying attacks at the lava prison. After a series of futile attacks, their faces were filled with anxiety. Am I right? Medusa. Chu Bei did not even look at Yu Mei and Imo Basie, who were trapped by the lava. His body leaned forward slightly, and the hot air from his mouth spread to Medusa's delicate face. "You do have some tricks up your sleeve. You saw through my energy clones so quickly." Feeling the warmth of the person behind her, Medusa's body stiffened slightly. As her cold voice fell, she turned around and looked straight at Chu Bei with narrowed eyes. Chu Bei smiled. He was a man who had the vision of God when it came to this battle plot. "We will meet again very soon." As his smiling voice fell, Chu Bei clenched his fist and a gush of scorching lava surged out from all directions and heavily smashed onto Medusa's back. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, Medusa, who was on the city wall, turned into a faint purple mist and rose into the air before dissipating. "Human, my snake people tribe will not let you off." Yu Mei and Imo Basie stared at Chu Bei with bloodshot eyes. Chu Bei still ignored Yu Mei and Imo Basie, and he turned to look at Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others. With a wave of his hand, a hollow fireball made of magma enveloped them. "Stay here and wait for me." After saying that, Chu Bei turned into a long rainbow and flew toward the depths of the Serpentmen tribe. Looking at the huge city in front of him, Chu Bei's eyes narrowed. Due to his familiarity with the script, he already knew that Medusa had divided the strange flame into 4 parts and placed them in the 4 corners of the city. He also knew the true location of the strange flame. Perhaps it was because he had consumed the magma fruit, but his sense of fire element energy had become incredibly sensitive. Even without knowing the scenario, he could locate the strange flame. After confirming the location of the molten green lotus flame once again, Chu Bei increased his flying speed. After flying past a huge palace, he hovered above a clear lake. In the middle of the lake, there was a small island surrounded by sparkling water. There was no bridge leading to the island. Walala. At this moment, the originally calm lake surface suddenly exploded with water splashes. A huge snake with a triangular head and body covered in dark green scales rushed out from the bottom of the lake. It opened its ferocious huge mouth and bit at Chu Bei. Its diamond-shaped pupils were filled with a wild savagery. Chu Bei indifferently glanced at the giant snake that had rushed out from the lake below and carelessly pointed his finger. Chi! A small snake made of magma shot out and instantly pierced through the huge snake's head. Then, with a mournful and painful cry, the giant snake fell back into the lake. Its huge eyes were filled with fear. Chu Bei followed the molten green lotus flame's aura to the small island in the middle of the lake. Soon, he found a circular open area. In the middle of the open area, there was a sunken pool filled with a crystal-clear liquid. White mist lingered on the surface of the pool. Even from afar, he could feel the extreme cold contained within. "Icy spirit frozen spring," Chu Bei murmured. His gaze finally fixed on the center of the pool where there was a lotus seat carved out of a strange crystal. Looking at it, On the lotus seat, there was a green flame jumping up and down. Sometimes it condensed into the shape of a lotus, and sometimes it condensed into a small green flame snake. The corner of Chu Bei's mouth slightly rose. The green flame on the lotus seat was the molten green lotus flame that was ranked 17th on the mystical flame list. At the same time, outside the Serpent Men tribe's fortress, a loud roar came from afar. A moment later, a huge, dark green demon beast appeared on top of the fortress wall. "Who are you people?" Separated by the magma cage, Yumei shouted at the figure standing on the back of the huge demon beast. It was cold in the forest. "I am Gu He. I have something to visit Queen Medusa of the Serpent Men tribe." On the back of the huge demon beast, 9 figures were clearly revealed in front of everyone. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man wearing a gray robe. Pil King Gu He. Hearing this thunderous name, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others seriously sized up the middle-aged man on the back of the demon beast. Their eyes were filled with shock. "I think you are with that person. You are all here for the Queen's mystical flame." Yumei's cold gaze swept across Gu He and the others as she coldly snorted. Among these 9 people, she could sense that there were 5 Doulings and 3 Dowongs. Other than that, there was also a mysterious black-robed person whose cultivation she could not determine. Even in the Kama Empire, this lineup could be said to be terrifying. What? Someone else had already arrived before us. Their target is also the mystical flame. Hearing this, Gu He's expression changed drastically. He looked at the magma cage that trapped Yumei and Imo Basi. Could it be that he is the one who trapped you here? So you are not with him. Yumei coldly laughed. "As for the background of that guy, you can ask them." Following the direction that Yumei's right hand pointed, Gu He's gaze landed on Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others. "Who are you?" Without waiting for Gu He to open his mouth, a man behind him took the lead and questioned. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li exchanged glances but remained silent. "I am asking you a question." The person who spoke saw that Xiao Ding and Xiao Li were indifferent and immediately threw out a few wind blades. However, the wind blades that carried an ear-piercing sound of breaking air landed on the magma ball and were instantly annihilated. I was wondering who it was. So it is you. This stupid lion whose brain is filled with muscles." Imo Basi seemed to have recognized the man behind Gu He who had attacked and coldly laughed. "I didn't expect you to still remember me." Yin Shi turned and looked at Imo Basi. "If you had not escaped quickly back then, the leader of your ink snake tribe would have been changed. I wonder how much you have improved after so many years. You can come and try." A dark and cold glint flashed across Imo Basi's sharp eyes. "Don't forget the purpose of our trip." Gu He glanced at Yin Shi. "Let's go and find the mystical flame first." "Imo Basi, what happened? You actually activated the emergency summoning order." Suddenly, a powerful shout came from afar. Soon after, a red shadow flew toward the city like lightning. Chapter 35. On top of the city wall, Gu He looked towards the direction of the sound and saw a figure that was covered in red dough chi. At first glance, he looked like a man on fire. That is the leader of the flame snake tribe, Yin Ci. This guy has a fiery temper and his strength is one of the best among the leaders of the 8 tribes. Yin Shi recognized the snake man at a glance. When the Kama Empire and the Snake Men tribe were at war, many of the empire's experts died in his hands. On the other hand, Yumei and Imo Basi, who were trapped in the cage, were delighted when they saw Yin Ci. "Damn humans! You dare to trespass into our territory." In a moment, Yin Ci arrived on top of the city wall. After seeing Yumei and Imo Basi's situation, he frowned and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as Yin Ci shouted, another strong dou chi fluctuation came from different directions of the Snake Men tribe's fortress. Soon, another 5 strong snake men appeared on top of the city wall. They all had dou chi wings on their backs. "Old Gu, the situation is not good. The leaders of the 8 tribes are all here." Yin Shi glanced at the 6 snake men that rushed over in a row, and a serious expression appeared on his face. "Imo Basi, what happened?" Yin Si looked at Imobasi, who was in the lava cage, and asked again. This group of humans wants to harm Her Majesty the Queen. Before them, one of them had already gone to the central island. Imobasi quickly summarized what had happened. Kill these humans. After hearing Imobasi's words, the leaders of the 6 tribes who had rushed over clenched their fists. Veins bulged on their thick arms as they stared at Gu He and his group with bloodshot eyes. After the cold roar, the leaders of the 6 tribes moved at the same time. They released violent dochi and attacked Gu He and his group from different directions. Prepare for battle. A deep roar sounded and the aura of Gu He and his group rose to the peak. On the other side, in the depths of the Snake Men tribe's fortress, on a central island, splash, ripples appeared on the surface of the ice spirit frozen spring, and a graceful figure leaped out of the water. The Medusa here was no different from the energy body that had appeared on the city wall before. She wore a purple brocade robe that wrapped around her exquisite body, and her long and narrow purple eyes were filled with a natural charm. If this king succeeds in evolving, you and those humans outside will all die. Medusa coldly glanced in Chu Bei's direction. As her indifferent voice faded, her beautiful eyes turned to stare at the green flames on the lotus platform. In the next moment, Medusa swung her snake tail, and her fair and slender hands quickly formed a seal. Buzz buzz. As Medusa's hands changed the seals, the lotus platform trembled violently, and the green flames on it seemed to have suddenly lost their restraints and rushed out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a ball of raging green flames. At this time, the ice spirit frozen spring water in the pool began to evaporate at a speed visible to the naked eye. Medusa looked at Chu Bei again, and after letting out a roar that was similar to a lion's and a tiger's roar, her whole body emitted a dazzling light, and she turned into a giant purple snake that was more than 10 feet long. Chu Bei stood to the side without any response, as if he was watching a show. Above the ice spirit frozen spring, the giant purple snake circled a few times and let out a clear cry, then swooped down toward the raging green flames. However, the moment the giant purple snake drilled into the green flames, a shrill scream resounded through the entire island, making people feel pity for it. Sizzle, sizzle. In the midst of the burning sound, the giant purple snake frantically rolled. As far as the eye could see, the snake scales that covered the surface of the purple snake's body began to rapidly distort and become charred black, until they finally fell off the surface of the purple snake's body. After the snake's scales fell off, dark red blood gushed out of the snake's body. However, due to the terrifying temperature of the green flames, the blood that flowed out was burned into nothingness before it even dripped down. The giant purple snake's rolling movement became louder and louder, and its shrill scream became louder and louder. Outside the Serpentmen tribe's stronghold, no matter if it was Gu He, Yin Shi, or Yin Si and the other tribe leaders, when they heard the commotion, they all stopped attacking at the same time. It can't be wrong. That's the aura of the strange flame. Gu He stared at the direction of the central island, and his gaze darkened. Is Her Majesty breaking through? We can't let anyone disturb her at this crucial moment. Yin Si and the other tribe leaders looked at each other. Sect leader, if we delay any longer, I'm afraid that the strange flame will really be obtained by Medusa. Gu He looked at the mysterious black-robed man beside him, who had not made a move since the beginning, with pleading eyes. I know. The mysterious black-robed man let out a cold voice, and with a wave of his right hand, a green long sword appeared in his palm. The sword vibrated, and a sharp wind blade formed at the tip of the sword, and a terrifying aura rippled out. Do Huang. Sensing the aura released by the mysterious black-robed man, Yin Si, Imobasi, and the other tribe leaders' faces suddenly changed. Get out of the way. The mysterious black-robed man held the green long sword, and the tip of the sword pointed at Yin Si. So what if you are a Do Huang? We will definitely not let you disturb Her Majesty's evolution. After speaking, Yin Si looked at the other tribe leaders beside him, and after communicating with their eyes, they formed a complicated seal at the same time. 5-snake poison seal. Along with Yin Si's low roar, The light in the palms of the 5 tribe leaders, including him, suddenly became brighter. Following this, 5 green energy pillars, which were a few dozen feet in size, suddenly shot out from the palms of the 5 people. They intertwined in the air and finally gathered into an extremely large energy pillar. As expected of the Serpentmen tribe's fusion do technique, it is really amazing. Looking at the surging energy pillar that transformed into a green energy snake that was a few dozen feet long, and feeling the terrifying aura within it, the mysterious black-robed man let out a sigh. At the same time, the black-robed man waved the long sword in his hand, and his aura became as sharp as the tip of a sword, and a huge green wind began to quickly gather around his body. Sect leader, I will leave this place to you. I will go and find that heavenly flame. Guhi bowed to the mysterious black-robed man. However, just as he was about to move, the remaining tribe leaders blocked his path. Yenshur, Fengli, I will leave him to you. Guhi pointed at the Serpentmen tribe leader in front of him. However, just as Guhi was about to move again, an unforeseen event occurred. The magma cage that trapped Imobasi and Yume disappeared into thin air. Imobasi and Yume were stunned at first, but when they recovered, they immediately blocked Guhi. Human, you will not be able to go anywhere. On the central island, Chu Bei looked at the huge purple snake's body in the raging fire and shook his head with some pity. Immediately, his right arm turned crimson red and began to magma. Dog bite red lotus. Chu Bei threw a punch toward the green flame. At the same time he shouted, his magma arm turned into the shape of a dog's head and extended into the fire. Chapter 36. Boom. In the sky above the icy spirit-frozen spring, when Chu Bei's magma dog head entered the blazing green flames, it immediately caused an earth-shattering explosion. The originally blazing green flames, under such an attack, seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. After a series of sizzling sounds, the area covered by the flames rapidly shrank. The terrifying temperature also decreased by a level. In the end, it turned into a green flame less than half a meter long, tottering in the air. At this time, the huge purple snake's body was also shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, when it landed on the ground again, it turned back into Medusa's human form. However, compared to before, Medusa was incomparably miserable now. Her fair skin was covered with shocking bloodstains. Medusa glanced at the extremely weak molten green lotus fire. When she looked at Chu Bei again, there was no gratitude in her eyes. Instead, her murderous intent became even more intense. Human, you deserve to die. Medusa gritted her teeth. Her eyes were filled with the color of blood. She could not wait to tear Chu Bei into pieces and grind his bones into dust. Your body is of the cold attribute. Using the mystical flame to break through is not a wise choice. Look at your injuries. It really makes one's heart ache. Chu Bei stretched out his hand and pointed at Medusa's body, sighing. So what? This is my choice. Medusa's words were filled with the coldness of the cold in the forest. And I only needed to hold on for a little longer, and I would have succeeded. But at the most crucial moment, I was interrupted by you. At the end, Medusa was almost screaming, her murderous intent sharp. As a kind-hearted person, I really can't bear to see you suffer like this. Chu Bei faintly sighed. Of course, he knew that Medusa was about to succeed. Otherwise, he would not have interrupted her. After all, once the evolution was successful, how was he going to carry on with the transaction mission? If I don't take revenge for this, I am not worthy of being the queen of the Serpentine tribe. Medusa endured the injuries on her body and coldly stared at Chu Bei. Her do-chi fluctuated rapidly. Don't be in such a hurry. I told you before that I'm here to make a deal with you. Chu Bei looked at Medusa with a smile on his face. At the same time, he waved his hand, indicating for her to restrain her aura. You're using the strange flame to evolve. Coincidentally, I have a treasure here that can help you evolve without suffering any pain. Medusa's aura was still rising. Why should I believe you? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest, and there was a hint of mockery on his face. In your current state, If you use the heavenly fire to evolve again, I'm afraid you'll only end up in ashes. Do you have any other choice but to trust me now? What do you want? Medusa thought for a moment and asked coldly, Green lotus core fire. Chu Bei stretched out his hand and pointed at the swaying green flame in the air. Are you playing with me? Medusa's face sank again. Since you can severely injure it, and I'm seriously injured, it's easy for you to take it away with your strength. No, no, no. I'm a businessman with professional integrity, not a robber. Chu Bei waved his hand and said seriously, It's yours. Although I covet it, I have to obtain it through a proper transaction. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Medusa's mouth twitched slightly, but she had no words to refute. The strange flame is there. I'm willing to use it as a transaction partner. Medusa pointed at the green lotus core fire and said, What do you want to use as a transaction? Chu Bei smiled knowingly, and then waved his sleeve, causing ripples to appear. A golden disc with a diameter of 1 meter appeared from the ripples, emitting a dazzling light. At the top of the disc, the words Mission Roulette were engraved. Compared to a normal roulette, this mission roulette didn't have a limit on the number of times it could be rotated until the transaction partner spun the target. Of course, because there was no limit on the number of times it could be rotated, the success rate of the roulette was quite high. This is? Looking at the sudden appearance of the roulette, Medusa's beautiful eyes blinked with confusion. Chu Bei wasn't in a hurry to answer Medusa's question. Instead, he looked at the green lotus core fire in the air. Buzz! The air trembled, and a black vortex suddenly appeared in the center of the disc. In the vortex, a strange black light rushed out like a river, sweeping toward the green lotus core fire. Sizzle! The green lotus core fire seemed to have sensed the danger, and in an instant, it turned into a raging fire, distorting the air. However, the moment the strange black light enveloped it, the raging fire was instantly suppressed. Then, it was forcefully dragged into the vortex in the center of the roulette by the black light, and without any resistance, it disappeared. Witnessing this scene, Medusa's bewitching pupils suddenly shrank, and her face was filled with disbelief. It was as if she couldn't believe that the strange fire that tortured her half to death was suppressed and subdued just like that. Where did it go? After a long time, Medusa came back to her senses and looked at Chu Bei in a daze. Chu Bei looked at Medusa indifferently, but didn't answer the other party's question. Instead, he said, In this roulette, there is a treasure that can help you break through. Let's start. Compared to an ordinary roulette that would automatically spin after receiving money, this mission roulette required the trader to place their palm on the roulette, and it could only spin once. Medusa's right palm was placed on the roulette. The silver needle spun. Ding! Accompanied by a crisp sound, the pointer landed on a square box. Boom! With a loud explosion, the square box exploded. A cloud of colorful mist floated in front of Medusa. Medusa looked at the colorful mist in surprise, but couldn't figure out what it was. Her confused gaze fell on Chu Bei. Chu Bei pointed a finger, and the colorful mist quickly drilled into Medusa's forehead. What did you do to this king? Medusa shouted angrily, but the coldness in her eyes quickly disappeared, and her face was filled with joy. Seeing the change in Medusa's expression, Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile. This colorful mist was one of the skills of the hero Eastern Emperor Tai in Kings of Glory. It was called Fallen God Contract. In battle, once this skill was used, a blood shield would instantly appear on the user's body, and at the same time, it would create a contract link with the enemy that would last for a few seconds. During the contract link, if either party was injured, the other party would also be injured. When the colorful mist entered Medusa's forehead, it naturally transformed into the cultivation method of the Fallen God Contract. This should be one of the battle skills of some kind of cultivation method, right? Medusa calmed her excitement, and her expression was incomparably serious. Just this Fallen God Contract alone, as long as it was used appropriately, could have miraculous effects in battle. After all, compared to humans, beasts had a huge advantage in terms of resistance. Chu Bei nodded slightly. The Fallen God contract is one of the battle skills of the Eastern Emperor Tai set. Eastern Emperor Tai? Medusa murmured. Was this battle skill created by him? Chapter 37. What about other related skills? Beside the icy spirit frozen spring, Medusa looked at Chu Bei expectantly. Of course, they are still in these boxes. Chu Bei pointed at the exquisite square boxes on the turntable. How many more times can I spin? Medusa asked. Hard to say. It depends on your luck. Chu Bei continued. Medusa placed her palm on the turntable again. The needle spun. Ding. A crisp sound was heard, and the needle landed on a square box again. With a boom, the square box exploded. This time, an exquisite white jade bottle appeared, with white mist lingering above the mouth of the bottle. Host has successfully traded for the molten green lotus fire. Mission completed. Host has received 150,000 willpower. Additional reward, 1 use of a level 8 product. Almost at the same time, the system sounded in Chu Bei's mind. What is this? Medusa looked at Chu Bei. The moment his words left his mouth, a buzzing sound was heard, and the large wheel disappeared. The dragon transformation water is also a treasure that can help you evolve. Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile. The transaction is over, so the wheel has disappeared. Can it really help me evolve? Medusa narrowed her eyes and looked at the jade bottle seriously. With it, even a dragon can become a real dragon, let alone a 7-colored sky-devouring python. Chu Bei replied calmly. Hearing this, Medusa took the jade bottle doubtfully. Looking at the liquid in the bottle that was similar to the icy spirit frozen spring, Medusa hesitated for a moment. She drank it in one gulp. As the dragon transformation water entered her mouth, a burning sensation spread through her limbs and bones. Medusa frowned. But just as she was about to use her battle power to resist, the burning sensation turned into a cooling sensation. Every cell in her body was soothed, as if they were sublimated. Soon, Medusa felt the changes in her body. A terrifying energy was slowly flowing in her body, as if it was going to explode at any time. Outside the Naga tribe's fortress, the battle between Gu He and the leaders of the 8 major tribes became more and more intense. All kinds of tyrannical dochi intertwined with each other, forming a dazzling radiance that made sizzling sounds in the void. At this moment, a loud noise came from the depths of the fortress. In the next moment, whether it was Gu He and his group or the leaders of the 8 major tribes of the Naga tribe, they all stopped their attacks and looked in the direction of the central island. Her Majesty's evolution has begun. Mo Basie's gaze focused. The clear sky above the central island suddenly darkened, and dark clouds began to appear. Rumble. Continuous sounds of thunder came from the dark clouds. Silver lightning danced wildly like silver snakes. Damn it! Sensing the violent energy contained in the dark clouds, Guhi's expression became extremely ugly. Under countless gazes, below the silver lightning, a purple pillar of light suddenly shot up into the sky. It was also at this moment that heaven and earth lit up as several bolts of silver lightning intertwined into one and shot down from the clouds before disappearing into the purple pillar of light. Why did the heavenly flame's aura disappear? Strange. Guhi stared in the direction of the central island. His frown deepened, and there was a hint of confusion in his eyes. Boom. Another earth-shattering sound rang out. In an instant, a vast and terrifying aura was released from the purple pillar of light. At a terrifying speed, it quickly enveloped the entire fortress of the Naga tribe. Immediately after, a huge creature that was dozens of feet long rose into the sky from the central island. It was a huge python that was covered with 7-colored scales. Its light purple snake eyes were bewitching. Even though it was still far away, one could still feel the terrifying aura that it released. Her Majesty has successfully evolved. That's great. Mo Basie, Yume, and the other leaders of the Naga tribe looked at each other. Immediately, their faces were filled with joy as their cheers resounded through the clouds. On the other hand, when Gu He, Yen Shi, and the others saw the 7-colored heaven-devouring python above the central island, Their faces became extremely gloomy. They subconsciously gathered around the black-robed man. Sect leader, we should withdraw. Guhi's face was filled with unwillingness as he looked at the seven-colored heaven-devouring python before speaking to the black-robed man. I'm afraid that it won't be so easy to withdraw. The black-robed man shook his head. His eyes were filled with seriousness. Just as the black-robed man's sigh sounded, the seven-colored heaven-devouring python turned into a seven-colored light figure that shot out from the purple pillar of light. Its speed was as fast as lightning, almost penetrating through space. Why? Do you want to leave now? How can this king's territory be a place where you humans can come and go as you please? Almost at the same time, an icy voice that contained a chill drifted through the air. A figure appeared in front of Emobasi, Yume, and the other leaders of the Naga tribe. At this moment, Medusa's snake tail was nowhere to be seen. She had completely transformed into a human form. A purple robe dragged along, wrapping around her voluptuous and exquisite body. A dark and cold aura spread out from her body and covered Gu He and the others. Dozong, feeling the bone-piercing chill that seemed to cover their bodies, Gu He and Yin Shi shivered. Their faces were filled with caution. Sect leader, what should we do now? Gu He avoided Medusa's cold in the forest gaze and looked at the black-robed man beside him as he asked, I'm afraid that we will really die here. Helplessness appeared on Yin Shi's and Windrunner's faces. Their eyes carried some regret. Forget about the current Medusa. Even if it was the Medusa who had not evolved before, it would have been impossible for them to safely escape. Other than fighting, is there any other way? The black-robed man's gaze swept over Gu He and replied indifferently, Sect leader, this time around, I have harmed all of you. Gu He glanced at the black-robed man and let out a long sigh. Although the black-robed man was already a 3-star Dohuang, he did not have the ability to retaliate in front of the current Medusa. Your Majesty, what about that person from before? Was he killed by you? Yume seemed to have thought of something and immediately opened her mouth to ask. Hearing Yume's words, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others who were surrounded by the magma fireball immediately turned their gazes toward Medusa. Their expressions were a little nervous. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. However, just as Medusa was about to reply to Yume, a voice that carried a smile sounded in everyone's ears. Rolling magma lay horizontally in the sky and finally transformed into a human figure. It's you. When they saw the appearance of the figure clearly, the black-robed man was the one whose expression changed the most among everyone present. Sect leader, you know him? Who is he? Sensing the fluctuation of the black-robed man's aura, Gu He immediately asked, We've met once. The black-robed man's gaze was firmly locked onto Chu Bei. Sect leader Yun, we meet again. What a coincidence. Chu Bei extended his hand and waved toward the black-robed man. As expected, you are in cahoots with them. Seeing Chu Bei greet the black-robed man, Yume scolded. Boss Chu, why are you here? The black-robed man took off his black-veiled bamboo hat, revealing his face. It was Yun Yun who had made a deal with Chu Bei in the Magic Beast Mountain range. Chapter 38. So you are the sect leader of the Yunlan sect. No wonder you have the guts to come to my territory. Medusa narrowed her eyes and locked onto Yun Yun. She sneered, but after today, the Yunlan sect will have to choose a new sect leader. Snake Seal. Medusa opened her right hand and faced Yun Yun, Gu He, and the others. Purple snake-shaped patterns intertwined on her palm. Buzz buzz, accompanied by a strange buzzing sound. Medusa's palm glowed with purple light. It rushed toward Yun Yun and the others like a surging river. The flow of battle energy in my body has slowed down. Looking at the approaching purple light, Gu He, Yin Shi, and the others' faces changed. They tried to flap their battle energy wings, but they found that the speed of battle energy in their body seemed to be blocked. They couldn't move it for a while. It's too late. Damn it. We are going to die in this desert. Yin Shi and Gu He were disheartened. Chibaku Tensei. However, just as the purple light was about to engulf Yun Yun, Gu He, and the others, Yun Yun waved her sleeve and a black scroll flew out. As Yun Yun's cold voice sounded, the black scroll released black ripples, instantly blocking the purple light that swept over. Then, a huge black ball of light shot out from the scroll and quickly wrapped around Medusa. Rumble. Almost at the same time, the city walls below shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Deep gullies appeared. What did she do? Yume, Emobasi, and the other leaders of the Serpentmen tribe looked at each other, dumbfounded. Sand and gravel rose from below and rushed toward the black ball of light that wrapped around Medusa. In a few seconds, a huge sandball with a diameter of 100 meters was formed. Retreat. Looking at the sandball that was formed, Yun Yun immediately gave the order. Then, she turned around and flew away. Gu He, Yin Shi, and the others were stunned at first. When they felt the snake seal in their body disappear, they immediately flapped their wings and left. Humans, don't even think about leaving. Stop chasing. Let's save Her Majesty first. Just as Emobasi and the other leaders were about to give chase, Yume let out a clear and cold voice. Then, she circulated all the energy within her body and struck the sandball in an attempt to break it open. After a few seconds, the originally motionless giant sandball suddenly began to vibrate from the inside out. Boom! With a loud explosion, the sandball exploded and a beautiful figure flew out. However, compared to before, Medusa, who had just escaped from the sandball, was clearly much weaker, and her face had also become a little pale. Your Majesty, are you all right? Yume, Emobasi, and the other leaders hurriedly went forward to ask, their eyes filled with worry. Medusa waved her hand, and then looked in the direction where Yun Yun and the others left. With such a background, as expected of the Yunlan sect leader. Your Majesty, are we going to charge towards the Yunlan sect? Emobasi's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. The previous sect leader of the Yunlan sect must have broken through to the Dozone class. In addition, I have suffered some injuries. Let's put this enmity aside for the time being. Medusa shook her head. How should we deal with him? Yume pointed at Wu Fong, her aura rising to the limit. The deal has been completed. Of course, I have to leave. After all, you won't keep me as a guest. Chu Bei let out a laugh. With a wave of his sleeve, the magma fireball that wrapped around Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others disappeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, numerous sounds of breaking air sounded. Emobasi, Yen Ci, and the other leaders of the tribe surrounded Chu Bei. Are you going to fight? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Emobasi with a playful gaze. Stand down. Without waiting for Emobasi to speak, Medusa's cold voice sounded. Hearing this, Emobasi and the others glanced at Medusa. Then, they flew back to their original positions unwillingly. Chu Bei smiled and landed beside Xiao Ding. Let's go. We can go back now. After his calm voice sounded, Chu Bei took the lead and stepped onto an eagle. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at Medusa and the other snake people warriors. When they saw that the other party had really allowed them to leave, they looked at Chu Bei, who was already on the eagle's back. Their faces were filled with shock and admiration. Your Majesty, why did you let him go? He injured Medusa. Looking at the 7 eagles flying away, Emobasi looked at Medusa in confusion. Do you think that I evolved through the heavenly flame? After Medusa finished explaining everything that happened on the central island, she faintly sighed. Even if I wasn't injured, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to keep him here. This person is actually so mysterious. After hearing Medusa's words, the leaders of the tribes looked at each other. Outside the Tagar Desert, those snake people didn't chase after us. Yin Shi looked back again and let out a long sigh. Gui's flying speed also gradually slowed down. His gaze landed on Yun Yun. Sect leader, what scroll did you use just now? It can even seal Medusa after she broke through. Did the old sect leader give it to you? Yun Yun glanced at Gu He and shook her head. I got it from that mysterious person. What? It's him. Gu He, Yin Shi, and the rest looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock. What exactly is his background? He actually has this kind of scroll. I only know that he is a merchant. He has all kinds of treasures that I have never heard of before. Moreover, his trading methods are extremely unusual. Yun Yun's beautiful eyes focused. As for his cultivation, he is not weaker than a dozong. At this point, Yun Yun seemed to have thought of something and said, "When Medusa was evolving, did you not sense the aura of the heavenly flame? If my guess is correct, she did not evolve through the heavenly flame at all. Then where is the heavenly flame?" Guhi was shocked. His expression changed. Could it be that the mysterious person got it? No wonder Medusa did not attack him. They must have made some kind of deal. Yin Shi and Feng Li seem to have understood something. Let's go back to the sect first. When I have time, I will pay this boss Chu a visit. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Yun accelerated again and flew in the direction of the Yunlan sect. Desert City. Boss Chu, are you going back now? We haven't properly entertained you yet. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at Chu Bei respectfully. Do you want to go back to Wu-Tan City with me? Chu Bei asked. Indeed, we should go back and take a look. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at each other. After we settle the matters of the mercenary group, we will return to Wu-Tan City. Then, Xiao Ding looked at Qing Lin. Since you have decided to follow Boss Chu, you must serve him well. I will. Qing Lin nodded. Let's go. Chu Bei looked at Qing Lin. With a wave of his sleeve, a bright golden formation appeared under his feet. A blinding light bloomed and Chu Bei and Qing Lin disappeared. When the two reappeared, they had already returned to the celestial shop. Chapter 39. Sir, is this your residence? Qing Lin looked around and couldn't help but ask. Boss, you're back. At this time, footsteps came from the second floor. The little doctor heard the commotion and walked down. When she saw Qing Lin, a hint of curiosity appeared on the little doctor's face. Boss, this is... Her name is Qing Lin. She's my new maid. Chu Bei introduced. Boss, her wrist. The little doctor had just reached out her hand to greet Qing Lin when she noticed the green snake scales on the latter's wrist. I'm sorry for scaring you. Sensing the little doctor's gaze, Qing Lin's expression changed. She immediately pulled down her sleeves. She's a bit special. Chu Bei explained Qing Lin's background and experience. After hearing Chu Bei's explanation, the little doctor looked at Qing Lin again with pity. She said, "We don't have to care about the eyes of the world. From now on, we'll be best friends." We? Qing Lin was confused. If people knew about my constitution, I'm afraid they'd hate me even more than you. The little doctor shook her head and told Qing Lin about the woeful poison body. You two can continue to talk about your feelings. Chu Bei looked at the little doctor and Qing Lin, who suddenly became sympathetic towards each other, and walked into the inner room. From the Ice Emperor Hypedon, Chu Bei obtained 80,000 willpower. In addition, he obtained an additional 150,000 willpower from completing the mysterious flame transaction. Currently, Chu Bei had a total of 270,280 willpower. Chu Bei's current cultivation was 2 stars of Dado Shi. In this realm, it would take 15,000 willpower to convert 1 star of cultivation. Above the Dado Shi was the Doling realm. To convert 1 star of cultivation, one would need 50,000 willpower points. The host has successfully converted his cultivation base. 255,000 willpower deducted. Battle Spirit 3 stars. After deducting 105,000 willpower, Chu Bei's cultivation had reached 9 stars of Dado Shi. After deducting 155,000 willpower points, the rhombus-shaped crystal in Chu Bei's abdomen suddenly trembled. Then, it released a bright light, and the water chestnut around it quickly became round. However, it didn't take long for the round crystal to transform again. 9 spikes were formed, and it looked more like a sea urchin covered in spikes. The change from the rhombus dough crystal to the sea urchin dough crystal also signified the evolution of a Dado Shi to a Doling. After deducting 255,000 willpower points, Chu Bei's cultivation rose to 3-star battle spirit. Chu Bei nodded in satisfaction when he sensed the changes in the energy in his body. The host cultivation has broken through to the Doling realm. The host is rewarded with 1 auction right. In this auction, The system will randomly select 1 level 8 item, 2 level 7 items, and 3 level 6 items for the host. After 3 days, the system will release the auction items. The auction time is 1 day. The willpower obtained from the auction can be used to repay 1/5 of the host. During the auction process, if there are any changes, the host can unconditionally select 1 level 8 item to use. At this moment, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind again. Chu Bei was stunned at first. When he came back to his senses, he smiled like a flower. Although the activation of the system made him wait for 100 years, the rewards now made him feel that the 100 years of waiting were worth it. How could he maximize the profits of the auction? Chu Bei thought of the Primer Auction House. He immediately set off. Primer Auction House. Boss Chu, why are you here? Seeing Chu Bei's arrival, Yafei hurriedly welcomed him with incomparable enthusiasm. Her red dress wrapped around her swaying waist, revealing a sense of charm. You didn't lose out on the goods you got from me, did you? Chu Bei said with a smile. Of course not. Yafei brought Chu Bei to a magnificent spacious room. The demon core and spirit plant were all sold at a very good price. Especially the enhanced version of the AK-47, it was sold at a high price of 5 million. Who was the owner? Chu Bei's eyes showed some curiosity. According to what he knew, even if it was a Shao family wanting to take out 5 million at once, it was not an easy thing to do. The owner just happened to pass by Wu-Tan City. Yafei poured a cup of tea for Chu Bei and continued. He is the great elder of the Mo family. His name is Mo Chung. Perhaps Boss Chu has not heard of this Mo family, but this Mo family is still very prestigious in the northeast of the Jiamai Empire. It is one of the 4 great families. Although their power can't be compared to our Primer family, they still can't be underestimated because behind this Mo family, there is the huge Yunlan sect as their backing. Yafei's lips moved slightly. The reason why this Mo family is related to the Yunlan sect is all thanks to Mo Chung. This Mo Chung once entered the Yunlan sect when he was young. Although he later left, every year he would hand over an extremely large amount of offerings to the Yunlan sect. Since it is this guy, then taking out 5 million isn't anything strange. Chu Bei drank a mouthful of tea. You actually know this person? Yafei's face was filled with astonishment. I have heard of him. Chu Bei replied indifferently. Regarding the people in this battle-break world, whether they were important or not, he more or less had some impression of them. Boss Chu, I still don't know why you came to my auction house this time. Could it be that you have treasures that you want us to auction on your behalf? Yafei went straight to the point, her beautiful eyes filled with anticipation. 3 days later, I will bring 6 items. As for what these items are, I will keep it a secret for now. Chu Bei put down the tea in his hand and looked at Yafei with a serious expression.